a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
It is a dark time for the rebellion. Although the Death Star has been destroyed, Imperial troops have driven the rebel forces from their hidden base and pursued them across the galaxy. Evading the dreaded Imperial Starfleet, a group of freedom fighters led by Luke Skywalker, Leia, has established a new secret base on the remote ice world of Hoth. The evil Lord Darth Vader, obsessed with finding young Skywalker, has dispatched thousands of remote probes into the far reaches of space. What is up, Bombad fam? How are you guys doing again today? Oh my goodness, I can't believe we're here another week of none other than the Bombad Buildup. And this week it is probably everyone's least favorite Star Wars movie, Empire Strikes Back. We have a wonderful show for you guys tonight. And you know what? I'm so committed to talking Empire Strikes Back that I actually turned my basement into Dagobah earlier this week and just had to get that fixed before the recording. So we're all good now. But we're all fine here. Let's go ahead and bring in our lovely, lovely guests. I've got none other than Mr. Scotty Gero coming in, my wonderful co-host. Scotty, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fine. I'm calling in from Dagobah, Louisiana. We're doing pretty good here. I'm very excited to talk about this horrible movie, and probably regarded as one of the worst of all time. And we've got a very special guest who also loathes this movie. He is always talking bad about it on his own podcast, and you can't see him, but he's steadily nodding and just shaking, like rolling his eyes, and
this is getting a little red too.
Yeah. He just threw his Rebels hat off. Yeah, he's pissed. Jeez. All right. Well, let's stop with the attitude and bring in the wonderful Johnny Hoey. Johnny Hoey, John J. Jacob Heimer-Schmidt. Hoey, how are you doing?
Guys, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. Probably next to Dark Fate and the Charlie's Angels reboot, this movie is one of the worst sequels in the history of cinema. But you still have to talk. You have to talk about every episode because they're connected. So you have to hit Empire, and it's just one of those things you have to get through. So I guess we're gonna do that tonight, right?
Yeah. Well, why don't we just go ahead and start the tedious task now? So,
right. Unless you guys want to talk about Dark Fate, we can talk about Dark Fate. But
I
don't want to get to it. It's going to get
all right.
So, all right.
Let's be real here. We all love this stupid movie.
Yeah.
Come on. Let's not be. The fans must be convinced we're joking or something. Yeah. I don't know. Right. No,
I mean the de-aging they did on Sarah Connor, and it was just amazing. Oh, okay. Right. Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry. Laser focus here. Okay. All right.
Right.
No, guys, we're talking about The Empire Strikes Back, everyone's favorite movie from 1980. I would say it's one of the best movies from the 80s, but Ferris Bueller's high up there for me. We got John Hoey on pretty much because John doesn't stop talking about this movie whenever he's on his own podcast, The Resistance Broadcast.
That's true.
And there's a lot of really cool, interesting ties this movie does overall as a story, and I am just so excited to get into it. And I know Jerry and I have been talking about this movie in particular, probably the most privately, just because of what it means to us and kind of what it does for the overall Star Wars story. It really takes a bigger dive. So I guess I want to start off, John, with you. What does this movie in particular mean to you?
I mean, it's hands down my favorite movie of all time, not just my favorite Star Wars movie. It is a perfect movie, in my opinion, in terms of not even its own genre being, fantasy, space fantasy, whatever you want to call it. It has everything you need. It has action, comedy, romance, excitement, adventure. Like, you can go down the checklist of genres, and it's somewhere in this movie. And it's the one, when you're a kid, or when you look back on being a kid, like 5 years old or whenever, when I first saw this, you don't remember a lot of your young childhood, but I do remember flashes of watching this movie for the first time with my dad, and it was the first Star Wars movie I ever saw, and him saying, I'm like, Dad, who is that guy? And he's like, that's Luke Skywalker. He's the hero. And I'm like, oh wow, what is this? Like this looks like it's real, but happening somewhere else. You know, I remember it stuck with me, so that means a lot. And I can't say enough about this movie. I'm glad. First of all, thanks for bringing me on to talk about this movie, as opposed to my real favorite, Attack of the Clones. But I'm just really excited to talk about it, and I could go on for days about how much I love it. But I think you guys get the idea. And if you listen to me on the Resistance broadcast or read me on Star Wars Newsnet, you definitely are probably tired of hearing me talk about how much I love it. But I do. I don't care how cliche it is.
For my ally is the Force, and that's John's ending sign off every time. No, to me, this movie, and I love exactly what you said. It's one of those movies that, like, through just the storytelling alone, it has so much more weight than almost any other Star Wars movie. It's kind of the one that has the deepest dive into the lore, besides TLJ to me. It's like so fantasy driven, and just the things they pulled off with this movie. Like I've mentioned in the notes later, but this is the least edited movie by the special editions. Like they didn't really touch this movie besides the Cloud City sequences, you know? And that's huge to me. It's just for me, from a film standpoint, it's definitely the best crafted and most unique of all the Star Wars movies, you know? Like it's linear but non-linear, and there's so many different storylines happening that make sense and does not get cluttered at any point. It's awesome. It's really good. But Jerry, what about you?
Well, honestly, I'm a little kind of like John. Like I had the similar experience where Empire was I remember seeing scenes of Empire before I saw any of the other movies. Like specifically the scenes with Yoda and Luke on Dagobah. I remember. In fact, I've talked about it on here before already. Like how it was on at my grandma's house, and like the whole family was over there. They were watching, and I was a little creeped out by Yoda at the time because 6-year-old, and for some I don't know why. And it just something about it stuck with me. And then the only other scene I remember seeing was at my cousin's house. It was the fight on Cloud City between Luke and Vader right before Vader takes his hand, and just those scenes are burned forever in my brain, and it's the one I've watched the most. Scotty, you said it. I mean, again, me being slightly a defender of the special editions to a point. I understand. But it really is the least edited of all of them.
Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid kind of being a little disappointed that there wasn't more new stuff, because I was a little more like, you know what I mean? Like, I was excited because I had already seen the original ones, and I was like, oh, it's cool they added some new stuff. I wonder what they're going to add here, But they really just touched stuff up.
Yep.
It's such a testament. But no, I mean, you can call it vanilla or whatever you want, but this is my favorite of the movies. Plus, I realized when I was rewatching this past Friday, this is my favorite John Williams score. This has the most pieces of John Williams music for Star Wars that I hum the most. Yoda's theme is constantly in my head. Of course, the Imperial March.
Right.
There's just so many iconic score beats in this one, and I don't know. It's
Han and Leia's theme.
Yeah.
That's
oh
so
my gosh,
good.
that is like one of my favorite. That's one of the most underrated love themes in the entire saga. Honestly,
It's all over the sequel trilogy. Like they
yes.
it is.
Yeah.
They're really, which is so awesome because of the whole that's their son and stuff, so it makes sense. It's really kind of cool. I don't know. I'm excited to see what he does in Rise of Skywalker. But I'm sorry. I know everyone loves like Across the Stars from Attack of the Clones and stuff. I mean, it's a good piece. To me, it doesn't touch
No, it doesn't.
Nah.
But anyway, I don't know. And again, this is the gushing section. So there you go. And John, dude, I'm with you, man. Someone asks what my favorite movie is, my brain immediately goes to Empire, and then I have to go, no, something for the normies. Let me think something else, So.
Yeah.
But anyway, you know what? Hey, but we don't hide here at the Bombadcast anymore, guys. We love Star Wars, and hey, Empire, It's a heck of a good movie, man.
Yeah.
Well, you bring up another thing about the music. It's kind of got some sleeper hits too. Like I mentioned later, the part where Han and Luke are, stranded, and then Echo, whoever, is going to go save them, and it's that music of them going over the ice. It's just like...
Yes,
it's
they don't really do that anywhere else, right?
No, and all
the music is so driving.
Yeah.
So
yes.
driving.
Oh, it's great, and I really hope The Rise of Skywalker may pull some stuff from this movie, but that's just a pipe.
I'm always hoping I always hope the new Star Wars film succeeds.
Yes.
Becomes my new favorite, but there's always stuff in them, but gosh, even the asteroid chase.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Falcon and the TIE Fighters, man, that is one of my all-time favorite Star Wars tracks. And I love how they kind of redid it a little bit in Solo.
Right.
Yeah.
Solo 2 happened.
Right.
Had to mention it on this episode.
You have to.
Come on.
Yeah.
We're avid supporters.
It's in my contract. You have to say it at least 7 times. So.
Yeah. I read the clause. It's pretty intense.
Yeah, get ready for it, guys. Okay.
No, I agree. I agree about the music without a doubt. And the fact that we're about to say farewell to John Williams, in addition to a lot of the legacy actors at the end of The Rise of Skywalker, we'll be able to go back and listen to it all and be like, this is John Williams' contribution to Star Wars right here, bing to bang.
Yeah.
And
awesome.
I think the music in The Empire Strikes Back is huge because Lucas could have very well been like, wow, Star Wars was such a success. Bring all those tracks over to the sequel, and to make sure that's still a success. And they're like, no. We're hitting you with this new theme here, new theme here, new theme here. Darth Vader's theme that's going to follow him for the rest of his character career, even when we do a prequel that goes before this. And you're like, where was that track in A New Hope? I don't know. But we're going to put it in Rogue One, though. So it's, nice. I mean, everyone knows John Williams is the best. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Hands down. And there's one thing I wanted to bring up, too, but... This is not only a great movie, and it's really, honestly, like y'all have said, if you were to put it, in regards to film and cinema, it is truly the best one for Star Wars, And I would almost say I like TLJ. TLJ did a really good job at becoming like one of the best for Star Wars, but this movie is the pinnacle of that. It's the most iconic. Everyone knows the I love you, I know. Everyone knows the no, I am your father. Everyone actually makes mistakes when they say that line too.
Sure.
It's so ingrained in pop culture that people often forget that, like, I don't know. I guess when I was rewatching it, I rewatched it today and I took notes on it today. But rewatching it, like, kind of dawned on me. It's like this is just such a huge and small movie at the same exact time in regards to the story. It's not overall. It's very opposite of what a Star Wars usually is. This overall huge implications are incredibly big, but it's not. And I think that's what makes this movie a great movie and a great Star Wars movie. And I kind of wanted, before we get into the huge discussion, what makes this a great Star Wars movie to you, Jerry? Why is this a Star Wars movie on its own versus being just a regular, a fantastic film itself?
Oh, man. Man, no pressure, right? I don't know, man. Like, just kind of all the stuff we've been talking about, but also I was just thinking when you were talking about all that, Scotty, this is, I think, besides A New Hope, which A New Hope really kind of changed cinema.
Yes, it did.
This one really kicked the door open on expanding the world, but that it also really, it told a more, I don't know, sometimes I kind of like think should you even use the word mature, a more mature story, but it told a darker story. It told, again, middle chapter, and there's just something about Empire Strikes Back that it's different than all the others, and I know so many people where this is the measuring point of how good is a Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
That really speaks, I think, to I don't know, just why it is one of the greats, And I'm trying to think. I don't know if I'm trying to think of the list of top 100 movies or whatever, the top movies to watch, just of all time, all cinema. But isn't this on like lists like that. I feel like it is.
Oh, 100%.
dope.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
Totally.
one and A New Hope probably. It's just amazing that I don't know how much clout the second chapter of a trilogy gets. You know what I
Right,
mean? It's
right.
like, this is the
Yeah.
one that ends on like a what's going to happen.
It does.
Anyway, John, what do you think, man?
Well, it set the bar for sequels. Like, aside from maybe The Godfather Part 2, this is one movie that,
Yeah, man.
for all argument's sake, surpassed a juggernaut in its own right.
That's a
Like,
good point.
like to think that you have Star Wars, the biggest movie of all time, which changed how movies were created, and then they're like, guess what? We're doing a sequel, and it's going to be better than the first one. It's amazing. And you know what's funny about it, and what I think makes it a great movie over time, because we can only look at it from the prism of now, is
Yep.
when it first came out, it did get mixed reviews. It was, it was like, reviews would say like it was an adequate film. We didn't expect it to live up to what they did with the first one. And, it got a little bit of, it was a little too different. And doesn't that sound a little familiar?
Yeah, it does.
If that movie was made today, in terms of production, the amount of headlines that would have been created, because it would have been like, well, Lee Brackett was the first writer, and then Larry Kasdan came in and rewrote the movie. Oh my God, it's doomed.
The big chill.
Right.
Yeah.
Why isn't George Lucas directing his own sequel? He must not like it. Who is?
Oh my gosh.
Who is Irvin Kershner? Like, who is that? Never heard of him. Like, what has he done?
Heard he was just a teacher. What?
Yeah, here's what he's done. So, it's just funny when you look at it in that prism. If it was around today, and it history repeats itself, and I don't want to say it's the same as The Last Jedi, or Last Jedi is better than it, because I don't agree that it is. But it's just that movie that aged even better, and I feel like as it goes on and on, passes through the generations, it carries that weight of Star Wars. And if it didn't do what it needed to do, I don't know if we're sitting here today looking at a 7, 8, and 9. So I think as important as A New Hope was, we have to remember that George Lucas independently funded The Empire Strikes Back so that he can do the movie how he wanted to do it, and it wasn't at the mercy of Fox and that sort of thing. So him making that move, if you look at how the dominoes fall, really triggered this chain reaction that led us to a franchise that spanned 5 decades over. We tried to make a sequel and it didn't work, and people remembered Star Wars.
That's a beautiful summary of that. Of like essentially what this movie did for pop culture, and especially when you bring up the fact of all the I wouldn't even say mistakes, but the issues that maybe even plague this movie a little bit. It still does not seem that way. And yeah, if you look at it from a perspective of today, it would be pretty scary to think that it was in the hands of these people, and it did not go as what they expected. And you sit in that theater and I mean, like I even have written later, like the whole hyperdrive not working. That's I accept that. Everyone accepts that. But if it would be today, it'd be like, no, that makes no sense. And
yes,
it's
right.
just the social media age has made people far more cynical, and these things that happened in the past are either torn apart or they're beloved to a degree where it can't be ever taken apart in a regard to make it sound bad. I don't know, like your Godfather parallel is amazing, but everyone would be like, oh, I wouldn't have think that they would kill Fredo. Like that would have been a huge thing nowadays, but it's just accepted. It just makes sense when you watch The Godfather. You don't question The Godfather. It came on 75. I don't know. It's really that's a beautiful point you made. But in regards to this movie in particular, it's just it transcends of filmmaking. It transcends the Star Wars genre. I mean, the collaboration of genre. When you watch it, it's way more of a romance and Greek mythology. Like, I don't know, it feels ancient. It does not feel like this movie was made in 80. It feels like if you were to really go to a galaxy far, far away and see a story unfold, it doesn't have the clunky look of A New Hope. It doesn't have the silly campiness of Return of the Jedi, though I love both those movies. It's this weird, mature, and that's a good word to use, honestly. It's a very mature movie. It's not that many aliens except for the Ugnaughts and Yoda. It's not as
I really thought about that. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. It's just not as serial. It's not. It's like a drama, and it's The way it's shot is very professional. It doesn't look like it's shot. There's not that many wide shots, and if there is, it's for a reason. It's not like a New Hope where it's A New Hope's a lot of establishing, where this movie doesn't do that many establishing shots. It focuses way more on the character. But I guess we can get into it now, gentlemen. Are y'all ready? The
absolutely.
big discussion.
Let's do it, man.
Awesome. So, the big question we're going to ask ourselves before this starts, where are we in this chapter? What is the state of the galaxy? So, it has been 3 years since the destruction of the Death Star during the Battle of Yavin. The rebellion has been involved in several conflicts with the Empire and resulting with very small wins or losses. The rebellion has formed a hidden base on the snowy planet of Hoth, but in due time, the Empire will then discover their presence. And
spoilers.
Oh, sorry. I hope everyone's watched it by now.
Yeah.
We get this opening of the Star Destroyer again. Great opening. I think each original trilogy opens up with the Star Destroyer, and all it launches is just some little probe, and then we cut to Luke, and Luke's on the Tauntaun, and it's cool to see him communicating with Han this entire sequence. And it's funny that our first introduction is going to be Luke, and this is Luke's story, if I'm going to be honest with you. Like, everything is centered around Luke. I know we have Han and Leia doing their thing and on the Falcon, but the reason is because Luke is going to be the end game of all this. I think it's a great introduction.
Han and Leia. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say Han and Leia are just that B plot where they get chased slowly across, space. So
yeah,
not similar to anything else.
No.
Sorry. Continue. Please continue.
No, that's pretty much what I want to bring up. It's just for the beginning, and you get introduced to the Tauntaun, and Mark Hamill looks a little more matured. He looks a little more aged, and I like that Han is still fighting off Jabba, and he hasn't paid back his debts yet. And the cool thing now is, when you look at these characters, they're more of the heroes of the rebellion. They're not just Leia has always been a hero, and Han was never a hero, and Luke was a nobody. And that sounds familiar too. Luke being a no one.
Yeah.
It sounds like they got some things right in these new. Never mind. This is not for that discussion. No, they're all heroes, and it's interesting. It really is interesting. These heroes of the rebellion are then legends. So yeah, I don't know. This whole opening's very good. What do you think of it, John? What do you think of just this establishment of where we're at?
So I like to focus on your mains, and obviously for this trilogy, it's Luke, Han, and Leia. And
yes.
I always take Leia as the nucleus in terms of she didn't change. She changed the least from A New Hope to Empire Strikes Back. She was already established. She was the fight. She was the rebellion. She's kicks off right here in Empire Strikes Back, giving directions on, here's what you got to do and good luck and blah, blah, blah. Han had to go through a personal growth. He had to realize to not be selfish, go back to being selfless, how we first met him in Solo before he became jaded and got burned by Kira and that sort of thing. So he's starting to find himself again a little bit, and he's going out to risk himself for his friend. That's something he would never do in A New Hope. Nope. I only care about one person. I only take orders from one person, me. He's slowly already not that guy. And then you have Luke, who's going through a different type of growth where he's discovering his powers and being more mature, caring a little less about looking to the horizon, more of looking inward and trying to find what he's all about. It's funny, you have Han and Luke, I feel like, circling around Leia in terms of them finding themselves, and she's like the rock in the center. So when we kick off here, I feel like that's the path that they're on.
Oh, yeah. Good point. Jerry, where do you feel you're at in this opening?
Well, the last movie, Han straight up McClunkied Greedo in that little booth there.
Yes.
So, seriously, you think about that 3 years between this and Empire Strikes Back, or between this and A New Hope, sorry. Gosh, I know we've got comics kind of filling that time now, but
yeah,
just bare bones, just the films. It's a jump, but it doesn't feel like an unwarranted jump for the character.
Yeah, definitely.
They're just, because sometimes you can it's a real delicate balance sometimes when you've got personal growth in a character over a few years between sequels. Sometimes people can get been out of shit. Just here's a Star Wars reference in order to illustrate that. You think about everyone, knew of Cham Syndulla from the Clone Wars back before the Disney acquisition. Then after the Disney acquisition, like the second novel was like what Words of the Sith with him, starring characters. And then he was in an episode of Rebels, and everyone was like, "What the heck? What happened to all that character development?" You know what I mean? Like it's a real delicate balance you got to kind of like get here. And they just, it really, when you look at like the background of the original trilogy, I mean, A New Hope is an insane story how it got made and how it became. I mean, lightning. You would think they caught lightning it was lightning in a bottle one time only, and then Empire Back comes out, and they nail the characters, nail everything. Just again, I mean. All I'm really saying is just kind of repeating what John was saying. So, I mean, Leia, again, is just, she's the leader, she's all that, and Han and Luke they're finding themselves. They are the characters in process. So
Totally.
But there is still, even though Leia is established, there's some growth for her as well in this film in regards to making herself up, too, she's, been at war for how long, and then, this kind of little budding romance between her and Han. I don't know. It's just a really, really cool story for all these characters. So, and the introduction, again, classic. How awesome is it? The second movie, like the first movie, all the characters at the beginning, they haven't met each other. Second movie, get into it, man. We're buddies. We're all in, and that's just such a fun thing to watch.
Right.
So, there you go. That's my 2 cents.
Well, this may be Luke's story, but we can all admit in this, and I guess discussing it right here, Han is the best character in this movie in particular. Just the way he acts.
Absolutely.
It's just Harrison Ford absolutely just that, like Jerry said, with the production capturing lightning in a bottle. This in particular, the way Lawrence either wrote him or the way he was directed by Irvin Kershner, it is absolutely amazing, and I think that's what Solo did with the characters. Well, the Solo, I mean, the standalone movie. And that's with that movie, they really captured that same exact Han from Empire Strikes Back, and
it was almost like the same guy was involved with writing it.
Oh, wow.
You would think so, yeah. That's crazy. Right?
No, it's nuts. But it's funny enough, the movie I watched before I went and saw Solo, I made it a point the night before to watch Empire Strikes Back, because I thought, what other movie's going to be just like it? Like, what other movie's going to be just like Solo in regards to writing and feel?
Yeah.
Boom. It's this. And, it's just, this whole movie, Han is just... still the character you want to be. Let's be honest. Like I said in A New Hope with Alex, I'm like, you just want to be Han Solo. It's everyone's end goal. Male or female, you want to be that badass. And Han still has that charm, and the way he talks to General Riken, the way he talks to Riken so much different than he talks to Leia, and it's so awesome because it's not what Leia wants, but it's what she needs to hear. It's just it's awesome. And what's up, Jerry?
Oh, I was just going to say, if we're going to be talking about that hallway scene, I don't know if we're are we there?
Bring it up.
Because, oh my gosh, that is like one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie, because that whole banter between them is so brilliant. Like I think I put in my notes, Scotty, that I sent to you, that I just put like the Han Leia scene in the hallway and I just did like a chef's kiss. Thing or whatever, because it's just that whole how there's like people going around them, but they're having this like lovers quarrel essentially. Like it's people who like, man, they just need to, like, everyone who works with them is like, gosh, they just need to get it done over with. Yeah, just like you can tell. I love especially that guy who just kind of slips behind Leia.
Yeah.
That's my. It's like he's like, no, I'm not even gonna pretend like I see this.
Well, also, let's not for 1 second think that Han Solo didn't leave the control room, like not thinking Leia was gonna follow him. He's like, she's gonna follow me.
Oh, it was a total. He was totally like trying. He was like, oh yeah, she's gonna watch. She's gonna come at my line.
Yes,
like, dude, and how killer is that last line though when he leaves? And that's like I think still one of the funniest parts in Star Wars to me. She's like, I just assume kiss a Wookiee. He goes, I could arrange that.
Yeah.
It's perfect line delivery from Harrison. My gosh.
Absolutely.
My favorite line.
He does the Harrison Ford points.
Yes.
What about you need? And then, he's walking out of the control room. He's probably like, what am I going to call her? Highnessness.
Exactly.
Highnessness. Okay. Yes, your Highnessness. You know,
Yes.
he just likes he likes getting her riled up. Like that's
Yeah.
He likes the competition because she's a strong personality, he's a strong personality, and that's why that energy is there between them. And both actors, to their credit, make it very palpable.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I agree. It's and one thing I will say, if in regards to science fiction as a genre and either science fantasy, it's probably one of the best love stories. Like it's written so well.
Oh, yeah,
and it's,
sure.
Yeah,
and it's,
hands down, man.
Well, and you think about the seeds it kind of planted in A New Hope, where he's like, "What do you think, kid? A guy like me and then he's like, nothing, no, not gonna happen."
Right.
And like, it's cool because this scene in particular, it's like you can kind of see it being planted there. And I honestly, when you watch it, you don't think by the end of it it's going to be the "I love you, I know." Like it feels like this movie should have been nothing but trepidation, and then the third movie should have been the resolve. But I'm glad we got the resolve of the love in this movie instead. It's much better payoff, and it makes the end of this movie so much more heavy as a story in itself. Oh yeah, and well, one thing I want to get into as well, besides this amazing relationship they have, it's kind of a little off topic, but Echo Base looks incredible. Number one, I can't believe this was made in the 80s. Number two, like it looks it looks like like if you were to go find an ice cave and just put stuff in there, it's insane how well it looks. Especially with the Falcon and then the like all the ice things around. It's amazing. It's so cool.
Absolutely.
This is the first one in preparation for the Bombad Buildup. I watched A New Hope on Disney Plus after the episode came out.
Yeah.
But this is the first one I watched in preparing for it in like the 4K new renders and stuff. And oh man, I can't wait to get this thing on. I think I put that in the notes too. I was like, man, I cannot. Oh no, I just texted you. I said, man, I can't wait to get this on physical.
Yeah.
It's gonna look so good. You're right.
They restored a lot of the color palettes back to how they were supposed to be. Like Han's jacket is brown again. That's a huge deal for anyone who's listening to us podcasting about Star Wars, you know?
Yes. That's something I've noticed too, John. It's like they're back to like before the special editions, the original color scheme, because even A New Hope, like, it takes me right back, man. I'm right back in my living room, like rewinding the VHS to watch it again.
Right. Except you don't have to adjust the tracking. That's the only difference. Yeah.
No, it's 100%. But it's like, oh, I can see everything. Wow, there's that guy. I actually noticed watching this. This is something weird I noticed. Whenever Leia is briefing all of the guys, around that X-wing before the big, Battle of Hoth, you can actually see. I never noticed you, and maybe I'm just dumb. For you guys, let me know if I just am blind. But like you could see Han working on the Falcon in the background. I never noticed.
I never noticed that.
I don't know that I have either, to be honest. Yeah.
Next time you watch it, just like look, Han is back there. I mean, well, who it is?
Right.
It's a silhouette, but it's someone on top of the Falcon. It's not Chewbacca.
Right.
Yeah.
This is it gonna be. Han's not let anyone else touch it.
Right.
Anyway, that's just, again, neither here nor there, just kind of something I noticed. And you're right, Scotty. It is 100% like Echo Base. Like even in 4K, you can't see the wires, you can't see the scene.
No, it's insane.
It's beautiful. And also, I'm amazed at how close they got to it on Star Wars Battlefront 2. Levels and stuff. I had some flashbacks to some campaigns and stuff there. But anyway.
And that's a good point, because I like to make comps when it comes to Star Wars movies, special edition or not, because they did make it look more better. They made it look better to preserve the continuity between the trilogies. Just like the set alone, go find any other movie that's supposed to be a big movie made in production-wise, made in 1979, and it won't sniff what they did with this movie. And again, that's all George Lucas re-putting the revenue he made from Star Wars back into this thing. Thank the maker. That's all you got to say right there.
Exactly.
He could have banked his check and did a mediocre job, but he's like, no, I want to make the best movie I can possibly make, and he did it. Yeah.
He did, and there's a couple little tidbits I want to bring up. I'm sure we noticed it as Star Wars fans, that maybe someone who's listening now has never noticed it, but Cliff from Cheers is in it. He is, I forget what's his name. I forget his character's name, but We have, and Jerry wrote in his show notes. Jerry mentions how many mustaches. John Ratzenberg. Jerry.
This is Star Wars: The Mustache Strikes Back for sure.
Yeah,
This is full on in the early '80s.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great. It's awesome.
Everyone's got their stashes from the '70s, but they're longer because they haven't shaved since.
Right.
Totally.
I also said this is it's like they hired a bunch of college football coaches. So
Yes, there you go.
yeah.
Perfect.
No, that's excellent. One thing I wish we could have gotten more of, and maybe this movie does it, but just does it so well they never touched it again. Wish we would have got more of Han and 3PO's relationship. Like, I wish we had gotten a little bit of that in TFA, just because the whole movie's like, shut up, turn him off.
Right.
Like, it's just...
I think that is his relationship.
It's just...
I mean, he literally covers his mouth at one point.
Yes.
It's like he's a droid.
amazing.
Does that work that way?
But you got to understand. I know. I think that too every time. It's like, oh, there must be a censor. Anyway, man, you can really go down a rabbit hole with Star Wars if you're not careful. I think too, you got to think he was totally cock blocking him, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He's he killed the mood when him and Leia are just trying to get that kiss, and not to skip ahead and stuff. But I'm like, you got to think, man.
Well, look.
Over to TFA because he's like, look, I'm the one with the red arm. You might not recognize me. And he's like,
amazing.
There.
Yeah. Well, look, if he
amazing.
hadn't interrupted, who knows? Maybe Ben Solo would have had an older brother or sister, and that would have changed the whole saga. So,
could you imagine?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That might have pleased some fans.
Right. True.
And get the twin saga. Anyway.
Right.
Well, after this sequence, of course, and everyone's freaking out where Luke is at, and I like that a lot. And Chewie yells because Han also left with him, and I really think it's kind of a cool sequence. And the gate shutting and the music builds up, and it's kind of like this weird little. It's a great Star Wars thing because it's kind of like making you think this might be the plot of the movie, but it's totally not. You know what I mean? Like this is just a very small trial we're gonna go through. Yeah. And Luke being trapped in the Wampa cave is awesome because Jerry wrote in his notes. Jerry, if you want to read it about him calling the lightsaber, I think it's a really really cool parallel I never thought about.
You see, I don't know why I noticed it this time, and I'm sure I don't know if they were thinking about this I'm sure they were for Force Awakens because I mean what. You're going to look back at what came before. But what I noticed was Luke isn't able to call the lightsaber into himself until he closes his eyes and quiets his mind. And to me, it kind of mirrors Rey at Starkiller. She's getting her butt handed to her because, she's not really doing that good before she closes her eyes and lets the Force guide her.
Exactly.
It's Kylo. And right here, and I made another point I'll get to when we get to Dagobah about how the Force works and stuff. But he isn't able to call the lightsaber to him until he quiets his mind, closes his eyes, lets the Force in, and that's what Rey does on Starkiller. And I'm getting chills just talking about it.
Sure. Well, trusting the Force. In my headcanon, as Luke's hanging there, he's thinking back to what he had to do to destroy the Death Star, and it wasn't the meter and getting the numbers and stuff, and that's what he's trying to do is he's reaching I'm trying to reach for the lightsaber, and he's like, wait a minute, all right, trust the Force. Obi-Wan told me to trust the Force. He does it, and it works.
And it works great. And this is also one thing that's interesting.
Such
People
a
don't
great
realize
shot.
It's one of the first Force pulls we see, Force moving an object through the air. I don't think they show anything like that in A New Hope, do they?
Yeah. It is the first.
It's like the first. It's
nothing is. Obi-Wan doesn't call anything to him.
Right. And neither does the only thing Vader does is the Force choke. This is the first time as a viewer, as a viewer of the movie chronologically, you would see the Force pull something towards their hand, and then he chops his feet off, and then he cuts the Wampa's arm off. And
sure.
I love that. One thing is kind of go back just a little bit. I love how R2 as a character, he has his own little arc too. He's actually in love with Luke, not in a any other a way that most people would get. But he's he's concerned.
I love Luke and R2's love theme though.
It's the best.
Sure.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
It's it's a camaraderie and Luke really does need R2 and R2 needs Luke and like John always brings up, R2 is the problem solver of the whole thing, and at the end of the movie, this movie is his movie too, as much as it's Luke's, especially for saving
R2
the day.
Yeah, R2 is the one at all times in this entire saga who knows everything. He holds all the cards.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like that's why he can save everyone's butts, man. is
Right.
He's like, dude, I know what happened, and that's why he's probably like, dude, you remind me a lot of your dad. Just kind of,
Yeah.
it's like that just it makes it more real and just kind of, I don't know. I really dig that. So.
Yeah. No, without a doubt.
Totally. No, another thing is when Luke, of course, escapes and he's sitting there in the snow, almost about to pass out or die. He sees Ben, and I think this is our first visual of a Force Ghost too, and it's kind of cool because as a viewer, you would think maybe it's some sort of hallucination or something, and he's like, "Go to the Dagobah system, there you will meet Master Yoda," and like. I'd imagine for viewers back in the 80s, if you had not seen any trailers or anything, Yoda was like this crazy cool dude. And it's just not what you expect later.
Right.
And also, of course, after he passes out, Han taking care of Luke is like another change of character. He goes out in the snow, looks for his friend, ends up, the Tauntaun dies, but ends up throwing him inside the Tauntaun while, I think Han built some sort of tent. It's like... This change of character is incredible. It is kind of like back to his roots from Solo. It's like he just cares for this person unconditionally.
Right.
He wants him. What I'm trying to get at, this movie really does do so much for each character. It makes you believe these relationships are true and like things have happened in the past 3 years. I don't know. I think it's awesome, and I guess that's. This is where this next sequence where the Empire really kind of starts to strike back. This title makes more sense once we have.
That's the title.
Yeah, it's starting to make more sense, and I guess the next sequence, which has already been discussed a little bit, it's the rescue and how Han and Luke are rescued by I forget Rogue 2. I don't remember actually.
Rogue
Rogue 2
2
is
Rogue 2.
Hold on, Zev Seneska, because I had hole in my canon junkie logic. I had forgotten the guy's name.
Yeah,
And
it's funny because he's using Wedge's call sign from A New Hope, but it is not. Again, I repeat, not Wedge.
so he was Wedge. I thought Wedge was Red 2 in A New Hope.
He is. Oh yeah, because he's you're absolutely right. He's Red 2.
This guy's Rogue 2.
Rogue 2. All right. Well, you know what, guys? I'll just see myself out.
No, stop. Come on.
No. Anyway.
Was there any prouder character than this guy when he found them, though? He's
his
I
face.
found them. Repeats, I've found them.
Yeah. Oh, I love it so much, man.
Like he's at a cantina years later, like during the Resistance era, and he's like, I'm the guy who found Solo and Skywalker. This whole thing wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for me, man. I'm Rogue 2. You're not Rogue 2. I don't believe that. Yeah, man, I'm Rogue 2. Like,
you're Zev Seneska?
Right.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Well, and I brought it up earlier.
Name.
The music for the sequence is amazing. It's just so it's very triumphant. It's kind of mysterious, and I think it should have
I can't stop humming it.
I know. It's one of those, and you know why it's so humble. And I don't know how much you played video games, John, back in like the early 2000s, but they threw this song in like the first Battlefront, the second Battlefront. They threw it in like all like what's it called? A Rebel Assault. They threw it in like almost every single Star Wars video game, and it's one of those songs.
I think
like,
even Shout Out to the Empire. I think it was in.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's one of those Star Wars songs, and we're going to get into this later, but I want to bring up what's the best video game adaptation of the Battle of Hoth, but that'll come later because that's a huge discussion within itself.
Sure.
But no,
sure.
Oh my gosh.
This one thing though, after of course this happens, Luke's in the back to tank, which is still really it's immature, but it makes me laugh every time because he looks so much bigger, but it's the water and the magnifying glass that makes it look like he looks humongous, like an
Who's
actual
that giant
big
baby?
toddler.
Yeah, right.
He
His
looks
little
like a giant
diaper.
baby.
Yeah.
But it
They're
didn't dawn on
medical
me.
underpants, of course.
Yeah, exactly. And I know Mark always makes fun of it on Twitter. It didn't dawn on me until this recently, but the last time the big three hang out this entire movie or they're together was when, Luke and Leia kiss, and it's weird. Like, of course, R2, 3PO, Chewie, Han, Luke, Leia. I mean, everyone's there. It's really kind of cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then you actually don't get that until maybe the last shot of Return of the Jedi. I don't know. No. They're on the Imperial shuttle together. So I guess you do get that.
And then they're on the skiff together too.
And never mind, I'm wrong. But you
No.
it's it's when they split up, you don't realize that, throughout the rest of it, they're never going to be back together. And
Right.
I think the Luke Leia kiss, even though it's not supposed to make me feel uncomfortable, the one that, okay, this is what makes me uncomfortable is the way Luke leans back and puts his hands on his head. And he's like, oh yeah, dude.
Yeah.
God, it makes my back hurt. Like it's. Oh.
He's like, it's funny because he's like, yeah, man, what do you think of that, Han? And it's like, we're over here rolling because, like, dude, you just kissed your sister.
Right. He does the forced yawn like it's not a big deal. Like,
Oh God, it makes me cringe.
I wrote in my notes that I'm like, I said again, a kiss just awkward enough to not be bothersome, but make it feel it's like it's just enough that it's just like
the kiss isn't gross.
There's not a spark there and stuff.
No.
Those people have never, which would be like, can you imagine if they did a more passionate kiss? Because that would have been like, and then with the reveal of Jedi, it would be, oh man, this would not play very well these days.
Well, that's why every time Obi-Wan tells, not to get into Jedi here, but every time Obi-Wan says the line, bury your feelings deep down, Luke, I keep thinking like, you mean his feelings for his sister? I'm like, no, wait, that's not what I was talking about.
Well, the
Game
best
of
part
Thrones,
of this,
let's take it easy.
No. The best part of the sequence is when right after it happens and Luke leans back, Han goes, "Take it easy," and he walks back out. I love that. It's it's one of those. I guess I say that to my kids too as a teacher. Take it easy, and maybe I got it from this. I don't know, but it's just such a take it easy and just leaves immediately.
I would feel incomplete if I didn't bring up this line before we move off Hoth.
Bring it up.
Oh yeah.
I
know where you're going.
Well, I'm going back a little bit here, real quick.
Okay.
When Han goes, we'll have to go out on Tauntauns, and he said it'll freeze before you hit the first marker, and he says, then I'll see you in hell. Like that is the hero badass line of badass lines. Like I guess hell is a thing in Star Wars, and he's just like. If that was A New Hope, him and Chewie would have been fixing the Falcon and taking off. But he's like, you know what? I'll see you in hell then. I may die to go save this kid, but he's my boy, so I got to go do it.
Right.
I had to bring that up.
Dude, no, seriously, that's a great nugget to bring back up because, like you were talking about earlier, Scott, he does have a change of character, but at the same time, it's a change, but it's almost like a return to if we're going,
right.
Chronologically, that's how he was. He's the good guy who wants to be cool, but kind of fails sometimes.
Yes.
Just
before being jaded.
lucky enough to make it look good,
Yeah, his whole mission in Solo: A Star Wars Story was he wanted to go back to Corellia to save her. That's what. That's where he is now for Luke.
Yeah. Han is nothing but loyal, and that's the reason why he almost left it. To me, that's the reason why he almost left in A New Hope because his only obligation was to Chewie.
Right.
Yep. I got to take care of my own. But now he's like, no, you know what? Luke's my boy. He's family. He's my brother. I'm going to go get him. I would die for that kid.
That's why Han Solo has...
That's an amazing line.
It's his own redemption story to find his pure self again before being jaded and scarred by what happened with Kira and all that, and Beckett and what have you.
Well, and that's why I get so upset. I don't get upset, but when people are like, Han just didn't feel like Han Solo in Solo to me. I'm like, dude, that's who Han Solo always has been.
Always has been.
And that whole scene with him and Kira, where we're getting on. Of course, we got John on, so we will get into Solo because that's. Just amazing.
I honestly think that movie's important to Han's story in this movie too. Though.
It is 100% important. But you look at the whole scene between him and Kira in that tent on. Gosh, I'm blanking on the name of the planet. So, where she's like, "You're the good guy," and he's like, "No, I'm a bad guy." Savarine, yes. Yeah. That is John, I now dub thee the canon junkie. So.
No. I make up names for things on TRB, so.
Right. Hey, man, that's an act, but no. I just like that scene to me epitomizes that is a thesis statement on Han Solo.
Sure.
So,
it does. It really is.
He's 100% here in this film.
Yes.
Well, one thing that this movie does in particular too, and not just for the character of Han, it's very weird. It truly just develops the rebellion as a story first. Like for the first 20 minutes, y'all, it is nothing but rebellion. Like that's all it is. Like it's the Han, Luke. It's nothing. There's the only thing you see is the Imperial probe droid, just occasionally, very infrequently.
Like the Star Destroyer at the beginning too. And that's it. Like it's like 1 second.
Yep.
Yeah, and
Done.
dude. If you think about it, imagine if this had came out today. That's a whole quarter of this, and I'm sorry, it's one whole eighth of this movie. Is this opening sequence, and like the Empire does not show up till 20 minutes in, and it's crazy.
Choice.
It's a very interesting choice because I mean you go from A New Hope, which is legit, just nothing but Empire from the start, and then every other Return of the Jedi is the same way. This is the only one that has a 20-minute just. And people would say, "Oh, this is all filler. We didn't need this." But look at us now. It's the best Star Wars movie. It's just
we really need the whole Wampa, storyline.
Yeah, it's aggravating. But I love the Super Star Destroyer. I know we can talk about that, but I don't want to get too into it. That is such a cool thing. It shows the building of we got this thing. It's a little bit bigger, And
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
It is a cool
Death Star
introduction.
Return of the Jedi.
Right.
It's classic George Lucas, and the Stormtrooper helmets are a little bit darker, and the mouthpieces and the eyepieces are a lot blacker. It's just it's the genius that is George Lucas marketing. But
it's just and that's probably why people forgive them not being in the movie for 20 minutes because when you finally go back to them, their introduction is so like banging, like with that Imperial. That's your full blast, the Imperial March.
Sure.
Yes,
I mean it's such an awesome. Just like we're gonna show you like just to show you how cool these spaceships are. Here's this with this like George Lucas, this John Williams track that like to use a Twitter term still slaps.
And bigger budgets, better uniforms. Darth Vader's shiny. His voice is better.
Well, I'll bring that
Amazing.
up too. The first shot we ever get of Vader is from the back of his head, and then you get to his back, and it's the exact same stance. And the ladies from Force Toast when they were on. I brought this up and no one had realized this. Maybe John, you might nitpick these shots, but the same exact. It's the shot of Vader from the back with his hands behind his back, legitimately parallels exactly what we see in Attack of the Clones when he's looking off in Naboo, and he has his hands behind his back, just standing there after he has the nightmare of Shmi.
Yeah. I think I saw. Like a meme comp, the prequel memes. I live on those a lot more than watching the prequels actually. And when people point those out, I'm not the person who does that ever. But when people point those out, I'm like, wow, that's not bad, George. Not bad at all.
Yeah. No, and that I think was
rhymes.
Well, it was totally on purpose, and I do like that.
I did it on purpose. You guys don't know, but I had 100% it. Okay, go on.
Okay, yes, sir. One thing I love, and Jerry, you wrote this in your notes, that the Force has no range in this movie. It has no range.
And that's like, I mean, we cut, between the whole like Luke and all this story, like we cut back and stuff to the Rebels, but when it goes back and they've like arrived at Hoth, just that whole, Admiral Ozzel felt surprised was, like they came in too close to the system.
It's amazing.
That whole, because we saw the Force choke in the last one. I still kind of chuckle because in our episode with Alex last week, we talked about how like back in the day, if you're watching this, not seeing any other Star Wars movies, it was like, oh, he's choking him with his imagination. But
yeah, right.
I mean, basically, when you really get down to the nitty gritty, but like. Just to see him, he just like basically FaceTimes Admiral Ozzel and is like, nah, dude. Like he starts talking, he doesn't even say a word.
No, he's like, no lifting up the hand. Doesn't even move his hand. It's amazing.
No, doesn't even move his hand. He just is looking at him.
Does Ozzel like it was Admiral Ozzel either the most overly confident person or he didn't know what this dude does to people because he's like, oh yes, Lord Vader, the fleet has moved out to light speed and
we're beginning to
what did you think was going to happen to you? He doesn't want an update. What is wrong with you?
You did not listen to Darth frickin' Vader. Man. Like, you know what happens.
That's something someone says when they're as clumsy as they are stupid, to be honest with you.
Ooh, zinger. Oh, man. It's the mustache. It's got to be the mustache. Because, like, mustaches give those guys confidence in you.
Yeah.
Well, one thing
but not too much.
Jerry always brings up is after that, and I think they haven't been in the meditation chamber yet. So, right, am I right?
It's right before that. It's right before that.
Yes,
I think.
And we get to the part where Vader turns to Veers, and it's amazing. It's just so it quickly happens.
There's even a shot. There's a shot in A New Hope where he kind of does that. It's where he turns. It's where he says, "A presence I haven't felt since."
Yep.
Turns really sharply. It's just similar to me. Where he's like, the rebels are there. General Veers turns around and Veers is. Right. How awesome! I think his name's Julian Glover. Is the name of that?
Sure.
Actor.
Yeah.
He's been on Game of Thrones and stuff, right, John? I know he's on Last Crusade too.
Yeah, he was Donovan in Last Crusade. Yeah.
What a vet, man! I mean, just committing, didn't even flinch.
Right. Didn't even flinch.
Makes me wonder though how many takes they did if they actually accidentally kissed Vader's mask.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's so close.
Yeah.
It is so close.
Well, no one's more dramatic than Darth Vader. Vader is all about theatrics. In The Empire Strikes Back, if you go next time you watch The Empire Strikes Back, think about how many times Darth Vader says "good." It's at least 6.
It's about as many as Anakin says it in Attack of the Clones.
Right.
No.
They're so similar. They're so the same person.
They really are. And I think this is the movie where you can kind of understand Vader more as a character too, which can be brought up later. Yeah. It's one of the only movies, I think, besides Return of the Jedi, where the villain actually is a little bit relatable. I mean, the sequel trilogy, very relatable, but the villain in this movie is he's still evil, but you can kind of see this turn of character, which is really kind of cool because if this movie is Luke's movie, Return of the Jedi will be Vader's movie inevitably. One thing that I wanted to bring up back to the music of this, when we get back to Echo Base and they're kind of preparing for this Battle of Hoth, I never noticed it this time around, but there's a very poetic version of poetic is a weird way to say it, I'm sorry. The Star Wars theme, kind of like when Han first sees the Falcon, that very elongated version of the main theme.
Sure.
It kind of happens very subtly when Luke and Han are talking for the last time, face to face. Yeah, it's very weird.
Why you got to do that to me, Scotty?
I know you're gonna go home and watch it. You're gonna go after this. Your listeners and John and Jerry are gonna go watch it now. But it's maybe for 8 bars, and then it kind of cuts back to other music. But it's interesting, and it's very different. And I like that from this point out, you kind of see these parallels between the Empire and the Rebels. The Rebels are trying to flee, and the Empire are arriving. It's kind of cool. And one thing that Jerry brought up, I love that Leia in this movie in particular is now leading the rebellion in the battle. She's kind of like the hype man. She's like, you need to go out there, blah blah blah, and make it happen. Any questions, whatever. It's awesome. I think that's really awesome for her character, at least.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how far you want to leap here or what. So where do we want to keep this right now? Are we still doing are we talking Battle of Hoth still? Are we going to get into that? Where do you want to?
Let's jump into that. I'm fine with that. I'm completely fine with jumping right into it.
Because and I know you want to keep this story based, but one thing I really nerd out about is the risks they took to do green screen filming with white background. And that is the biggest risk you can possibly take. And I think even ILM at the time and the guys doing the animatronics and stuff like that were so nervous about doing it because their namesake is on the line there. And, and granted, the special edition, and I'm with you, Jerry, I think the special editions are completely vital to these movies still being relevant. Because original version, I get it, purists, I get that. But if you don't update
they should
these graphics,
still exist.
Right? If you don't update the graphics, though, you can't seamlessly watch 1 through 9 and be like, this is the same thing, So.
You're right.
The transparency in the cockpits and stuff like that, but story wise, this whole thing, I love you have Dak as the new Luke in a way. He's like, I'd love to take on the old Empire myself.
I love that line.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and it's like, oh, that's a callback to the Death Star. Okay, we'll take it. But this whole scene, it was a fun action sequence, and the creativity of the rebels using let's tie the legs around the hog and let it fall over.
Yes,
it's very cowboy, and I love that.
It is, and the special effects are incredible. You're right, and the touching them up is still very good. I watched the Disney Plus version before we got on, and one thing I will bring up, it's one of those things. If you were to say what makes this movie so iconic, I mean, you can say the "No, I Am Your Father," you can say the "I Love You, I Know," but everyone remembers that at Walker's and remembers that sequence and the wrapping around the legs. And I mean, not that I want to get into it as a full discussion, but to me, there's a couple of video games that have been, that have kind of redone this, and I don't even know what would be the best version of it. But do any of y'all have any thoughts on that? I think the first one was Shadows of the Empire, right? That was the very first
that was mine.
3D.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. Was it Super Star Wars? Did they have?
Yeah, they had it, but it
Yeah,
wasn't.
but I know that's like a side scroller. But.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shadows for N64, you were able to actually do the toad cable, and if you didn't release it at the right time, you'd screw it up. You have to fight off the battle droid. So that one for me made me the most immersed, especially at the time. I'm sure if I played it now, I'd be like, wow, this is whack. But back then, you felt like, this is what it was like being in the Battle of Hoth sort of thing. And it's not quite Oculus, but back in 1997, it was pretty cool.
Pretty good. Honestly, I know a lot of people it's controversial, but Battlefront, the last one, or the one that came out with Force Awakens, it had pretty good mechanics for that. And again, I'm not as big of a gamer as I really used to. I've never really been a huge gamer. But
Same here.
That was like really smooth and stuff. I play, I said, John, I know you're probably like me, where you're like, if I see something I really like, I'll like make time for it or something.
Yeah.
But it's even then is like, dude, guys, I haven't even finished Red Dead Redemption 2. So just that came out like 2 years ago now. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know, but nothing probably has inspired more thrown controllers through walls or TVs or whatever than trying to wrap up a freaking 88.
Well, without a doubt.
Yeah, at.
Yeah, totally. And I guess the one thing I want to kind of bring up is the Battlefront 2 from 2005. When that came out, I was in third grade, and it was one of those I remember playing this and being like, you can choose what you want to do. You can be a guy in the trench. You can be a guy, you can be an actual Imperial moving that at Walker. That was the one game for me where it was like you had a choice. You had a choice to take this thing down if you wanted to, and that game for me did the battle off a lot of justice. But I guess if you want to bring back into the Echo Base thing and what's happening at Echo Base, I love Vader walking through it. I love them trying to evacuate. It's so iconic, and I love the snowtroopers. That's a design that never gets enough credit. The snowtroopers look so sick with the mask over their face. It's like the little rubber-looking mask.
Scary, it's kind of freaky.
It is scary. It's kind of like a skull.
Ghost face. But a little bit.
But one thing I love is right before they take off when Leia says to Han about the Falcon, of course, would it help if I got out and pushed? That is
gosh.
That it's one of those lines that could kind of take you out the movie, but at the same exact time, it actually makes a lot of sense. Would it help? Let's be honest.
And Han says it might.
It might. Yeah, that's such, again, Harrison's delivery in this movie of all his lines, so pitch perfect.
Right.
Classic.
Yeah,
classic.
Without a doubt.
And it's funny, people we like to get real serious about Star Wars, but then this is where I'm like, look, George put these moments in here for laughs for the grown-ups,
yes.
Hey, let me talk about something earthly, hey, you got a boyfriend, cute boyfriend,
right.
or hey, out and push and stuff. It's always been there. It's just, oh man, I know delivery is 100% part of the, but I don't know, that it's such a great line, such a great.
They after this sequence, of course, and I don't mean to speed through it, but everything after this is kind of where it gets nonlinear and it gets a little, mixed up. And I'm sorry for our listeners, we might be jumping back and forth, but we're going to try to stick it to just sequences and how the sequence would happen chronologically. The escape from the Empire, and they fly out into space. And one thing I want to bring up, because everyone says the Falcon's a character, but no one brings up the Falcon's best movie. This is the Falcon's best movie. The plot is around the Falcon not getting to where it's supposed to be. And I would argue this is the Falcon's as a character, the best movie for it. I mean, you're in it the whole thing. It's kind of like, if you ever seen The Hateful Eight, you're in that cabin with all these characters. The Falcon's just like that. You get to see where a lot of the layout is, where the control desk is now. You kind of understand it more as a character. It's the
MacGuffin too.
Yes, it is the MacGuffin. You're right.
Yeah.
Great point. I forgot Vader's looking for it. And I love that after it takes off, Vader, like, you see his head follow it. And you're like, oh, that's kind of cool to think that, that his grandson one day was, would be in the, it's, if you think about it from a Skywalker saga point of view, it's pretty nuts because it's still an object of interest, What's up?
Oh, I was going to say, Han this is the epitome of Han Solo flying by the seat of his pants and finding solutions. It's like Michael Scott. I start a sentence, but I don't know how it's going to end, so I just keep going until I find it. That's Han Solo.
I find it by the end.
That's Han Solo navigating through space to get away from Imperials. He's like, I saw it. Star Destroyer is coming right at us. Let me try to hide with the garbage. I don't know.
I wonder if Han Solo ever, tried to come up with a prize for Chewbacca for the workday, called a mine or like the mines.
Yeah, right.
I don't know.
Yeah,
it's actually just an industrial elevator, sir.
Right.
We bring spice up in it.
Right.
Anyway, yeah, sorry.
No, the hyperspace, the lack of hyperspace is awesome because that final moment when it does happen in the Empire at the very end of the movie is very satisfying because you don't see it the whole movie. You don't see the and the stars launching. It's
right.
It's just like TLJ. It's one of these hyperspace is an issue.
Subversion of expectations, right?
Yes, let's bring it
Not
up
to
again.
harp on that. I don't want to harp on that at all. But you're right. I never thought about how you never really go to hyperspace in this one. Like even Luke, when he's flying to Dagobah, is just like, it's like what 4 weeks, I'll be fine.
Yeah. And the thing surrounding hyperspace and it being reactivated is surrounded by they can harp on the relationship between 3PO and R2 because 3PO is just sitting there doubting R2 constantly. And he's like, what are you doing? Come over here and fix my leg. I need to stand up and stuff. And R2's like, shut up. I got this. Shut up. In beeps, of course. And then when he gets it going, 3PO's his biggest fan again. So it's just like that relationship is fantastic.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
It's huge. That's huge. And this sequence in particular with the asteroid fuel and what Han's doing, I know it's going to get brought up again, but it's just like Solo. Make Solo 2 happen. It's just like you see it. You understand the character of Solo because he's confidently trying to get himself out of a situation, though he does not know the outcome. It's just that character. And there's very few like that in cinema because the big thing nowadays is, everyone's got a plan for everything. And this movie does it in particular where he doesn't have a plan, and it's amazing.
Yeah. Never tell me the odds is how good is that line?
It's amazing.
Oh gosh.
Well,
I love that song.
When they're going through the asteroid field, I think one of the best musical cues in all Star Wars is when the Falcon goes up and then it comes back down. And I'm trying to think of how it goes now. I can hear it in my head.
Is it the it's like right before it dives in.
Yep.
Right?
It's such a good cue. It's it's amazing. But we then move on to, of course, our Dagobah introduction. And I still think the crash from the X-Wing into Dagobah is actually very good. It's pretty convincing. It's very old. It looks like it would be from a very early 50s movie. It's shot of them, shot of window, shot of them, shot of window.
Right.
It's not very Star Wars, but it's still kind of kind of Tarantino-esque if you think about it.
Or a callback to Lucas's affinity for World War II movies and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yes, it's not. And then it goes into the mud, and it's kind of cool.
Right.
And this is one thing I remember in high school. Me and my buddy Landon, we always joked about the Luke and R2 thing, and I love how whiny Luke sounds when he says it. R2. R2. Yeah. It's just.
Right.
I feel bad for Mark because you got to think as an actor, Mark is literally acting with a puppet and a stationary robot with someone inside of it.
A garbage can.
Everyone's like,
I mean,
Mark,
we lower too, but
for sure.
You think everyone's like, Mark Hamill's not the best actor. Dude, look what he had to go through.
Yeah.
This
whole crap, I say.
And then again, he's acting with David Prowse later in the movie, or no, it was the stunt coordinator, I think. It wasn't even David Prowse in the suit. if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Well,
they may have switched on and off depending on which long shot, short shots, or whatever.
Yeah,
right.
But regardless, it's this whole movie. Luke is talking to inanimate objects that have voices inside of them, but it's not the same as acting with a real actor. But yeah, no, I think Jerry brought up in his notes, I think it's kind of funny about the giant monsters.
Well, like, you look at A New Hope, the big, like, creature thing, which it was the cantina, which everyone's trying to recreate that now.
Yes.
Which I love. But you got to think, John, we wouldn't have Mr. Jacked Fish or There's Always a Bigger Fish. Out if it wasn't for like the space slug, especially.
Right.
But even like the Wampa, like we didn't really have. I mean, the Dewbacks were kind of in the original, but like they really brought them out in the Rontos and the special editions.
Yep. Right.
But this was the one that was like, no, dude, you guys don't even know. There's like giant monsters out here. It's crazy.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Right.
Lucas's brain is what a crazy, wonderful place that must be.
Yeah, right. I agree. Yeah.
Man.
Between the space worm, which is obviously someone's hand in a nice
great.
cool puppet.
Yeah.
But the swamp monster that gave R2 a hard time, which reminds me of the Dianoga who swept up Luke. So Luke maybe had some PTSD flashbacks of getting sucked under the swamp in the trash compactor.
Yeah.
So, I mean, George likes to repeat those beats, but sometimes it's to make characters empathize with their counterparts, which makes it a little more important.
Totally. And to me, in regards to the set that is Dagobah, and this is a little bit more behind the scenes again, but the Dagobah set is like unbelievable.
Yes.
Like that looks like it was shot in the Everglades of Florida, just with a lot more fog, or in I guess a different parish in Louisiana. Like it's crazy. It's so convincing, and apparently when they were doing the actual set, like the water had sat there for a very long time, for like 40 days, and it started to like really smell funky. So it I'd imagine a lot of it was realistic.
To the authenticity.
Yeah, it does. But yeah, no, I think it's one of the best set pieces, and then. Of course, we go back to, we kind of intercut the story to like the inside of the they don't know they're inside of they think they're inside the asteroid, but they're inside the belly of a beast. And it kind of shows that chemistry between Han and Leia there, and it really is just so good. It's just so it gets me so excited when I watch this movie, because a lot of people can look at that and be like, oh, he's creeping on her, but he's not. Like, it's there. She goes in for the kiss. She doesn't back away. She doesn't. She closes her eyes. She enjoys the kiss, which is like a huge thing for me, because if you look at it with 2019 lenses, you can think, oh no, this is gonna aged well, but it's not that bad, Like to me, and I don't know how y'all feel about it, but she embraces the kiss.
It is amazing again, Well, it's amazing, like we said, we already said it in A New Hope, but it's amazing how the character of Han, it can be, like, back in the 70s and 80s, could have been played so, quote unquote, like, slapping butts and, really
sexualized.
He's very, it's amazing how well these characters, again, hold up. We've been talking about that this whole movie. This trilogy is just, it's just amazing what they've achieved. And so, I think he, it's just, it's still amazing.
Han, like with anything, knows how to walk the line, and it's she falls into him, and she says, "Get off me." He says, "Don't get excited," and she says, "Being held by you isn't enough to get me excited." He says, "Sorry, we don't have time for anything else."
Yeah,
it's such a good line.
Interpret as you would like, Leia. Like,
right.
But no, I think it's a perfect scene. I think it's their combativeness just kind of dissolving in front of our eyes while they're still being combative as they're getting closer and closer. I'm a nice man. No, you're not. And then they kiss.
Yeah.
Like, she's still disagreeing with him, but she's meeting him halfway. It's not this way or that way. They're meeting at the middle. And then C-3PO, as Jerry put it before, C-blocked the heck out of him, and there you go.
Yeah. Pardon me.
No, but it's true, and it's just an interesting scene because there's it shows the character development. She doesn't give in to him, but they are in love, and the way they bicker each other. I remember fighting with my girlfriend for the first couple of times. It was never anything real. It was just we're arguing little things back and forth with each other. It's just it's interesting.
The moment she followed him out of the control room on Hawk,
yes,
you knew she loved him.
Boom, she knew she loved him, and the music and everything.
Why put up with it?
Yeah, she wasn't worried about the cause. She was worried about him.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And I want to hear what you feel about this now that I think about it. There's a line that is stated in Empire Strikes Back, and it's by C-3PO. And hearing John's opinion, because I know how you feel about it on your show, and I have a very similar feeling that you do, and I think Jerry might be the James Bainey of the group. But it's, sir, I don't know on your ship. Learn to communicate, but it has the most peculiar dialect. So how do you feel about that line?
Yeah, I look at it in a vacuum.
Okay.
Because I'm not an L3 fan by any stretch, and I'm the biggest solo fan out there.
Yeah.
I feel like that character was a little bit of a misfire for me. But to each their own. If people love it, I'm not going to be like, you stink, 'cause I'm not an a-hole. But I think I find it interesting when he says peculiar dialect. That makes me think not basic, and L3 spoke basic. So it's just one of those things that I like fans being able to enjoy connecting things. And I'm not here to say that's stupid or you shouldn't do that. And then while I may look at that as I separate it because I see as L3's part of the Falcon is pretty much her GPS, not her psyche, her personality, her sass. So I just look at it like that. When people are like, is Lando going to mention L3 in episode 9? I cringe a little bit because he didn't in 5 or 6. So he blew up the Death Star with the Falcon in 6. Wouldn't you think he would say, good job, L3? I like continuity. So I'm a big continuity junkie, like you're a canon junkie, Jerry.
There you go.
So I'm whatever about it. I don't draw hard lines because I think that takes away from the enjoyment of this for everybody, including the person drawing the hard line. So that's where I am with it. It's its own thing in a vacuum. If people want to make the connection, that's cool with me too, because Larry Kasdan was part of writing that, and he was part of writing this, and that's better than anything I could say. So
well said. But John, what's going to be cool in Rise of Skywalker's when Lando walks into the cockpit of the Falcon, and all he's going to say, "How you doing, girl? How you doing, old girl?" Something like, which can be, then you can
very
be happy with that.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
Are you saying that would be satisfying, Jerry?
To me, it would be. I don't know. We have JJ here. Can JJ, tell us what it's going to be?
Hey, Jerry, it's JJ. We want you to be satisfied, and I just feel like, I can't really tell too much about it. I just really hope you enjoy it. Okay. All right. Bye.
I have to agree with Mr. Hoey, or I'm sorry, Mr. JJ. Yes, it's very, very satisfying, like a Coke and a Hershey bar.
Yeah, you want to be satisfied, and I just can't wait for you to see it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go get some new kids. All right.
That was awesome.
Yeah, you're welcome.
There you go.
This kind of funny enough with the bringing up of JJ and George. That article that came out about them meeting and talking about what they're going to do with the Rise of Skywalker, and of course, you can only think that Palpatine was brought up, right? I mean, let's be honest.
Sure.
Yeah, and the one thing, John, I don't know if you had the opportunity to listen to the episodes previous to this. Our one with Pete Fletcher was, dare I say, incredible. But like Pete loves Palpatine, and Pete deep dives Palpatine, and just like you do, and I know you love Palps, but the thing is, the overarching story we've been discussing has all been manipulated by Palpatine and what he's done, and we get to the scene where we are actually introduced chronologically to the character of the Emperor, and the first line he says to Vader, and of course Vader's kneeling before him, he says, "I sense a great disturbance in the Force." And it's the son of Anakin Skywalker. And then Jerry will bring it up in a second, but he says, Vader says, "How is that possible?" And do you think Vader was being coy because we know that he just saw the first, he saw the lightsaber in the comic and it made that connection, and Boba Fett was even like, it's a kid named Luke Skywalker, and it breaks the glass. I don't know how I don't know what y'all think of that. What do you think of that, Jerry? Because you have a strong feeling towards this, I'd imagine.
Well, that is one of the best, that is to this day the best, couple of issues in the new comics. Mm-hmm. That for one thing, the whole fight between, okay, I got to be careful because I'm going to just deep dive on it.
No, bring it up though.
But Luke goes back to Obi-Wan's hut and stuff, and Boba Fett follows him there, which I know we all know Boba Fett's overrated, but he's pretty cool in this comic book where he's stationary but just moves in the panels.
Yes.
But Luke fights that, and then Boba Fett goes back to Vader and says, "Yeah, all I got was his name. It's Skywalker."
Right.
And just all these panels of Vader just standing there and Fett standing, and then he finally just walks away because Vader won't say anything, and then the glass on the Star Destroyer slowly.
It's good.
That was whoever came up with that visual. That is one of the best visuals in the new canon all time. For sure. It makes sense with this scene for sure because Vader, he's totally playing coy. He's like, how is that possible?
Right.
The Emperor himself says, search your feelings, you know it to be true.
Yeah.
What I found was interesting, though, I had the question whenever I watched this, Vader knows Luke is his son before Palps tells him, but does Palpatine know that he knows?
I think so.
I don't know, because I can't really, to me it could go either way, but just the way, Palpatine, he's the guy who, on the dark side, who holds all the cards. R2-D2 is his exact opposite, of course.
Yes.
Equal. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think Uncle Palpy knows that that's his that he knows that's his son? I mean, I guess he says it, so maybe that's a stupid question. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he says the son of Skywalker must not become a Jedi, so he knows it's his son, but.
Yes.
What the most interesting part of this exchange to me, if you believe in Palpatine and Vader believing in the rule of two, is three's a crowd. And Vader says if he could be turned, he could be a powerful ally. And Palpatine's like, yes, he would be a great asset.
Right.
Last I checked, 3 is one too many. So who's leaving the island? Who's getting voted off the island here?
Well,
so I found that to be the most interesting part, where they're both kind of playing chess with each other.
Right.
Where Vader's like, he could be turned. Palpatine's probably like, yeah, I'll kill you and use him because he has real legs and arms and stuff. And Vader's probably like, well, I'll get my son and then we'll kill you. And they're just kind of having that Sith chess match because loyalty doesn't mean anything. So that part I find the most intriguing.
Well, this is where...
Well, you got to wait until... Oh, sorry, I was going to say you got to wait until Disney Plus comes out with the special edition, and they add the line where they're like, you remember Asajj Ventress?
Right.
And she was kind of cool, so let's do that.
Yeah, right.
Sure. Well, one thing that should be brought up, because it's a lot of foreshadowing, it's the line, he could destroy us. And it's true. It's not that it's Luke that destroys him. Luke does lose. Luke loses in Return of the Jedi. And that's another thing that people don't want to admit. Everyone's like, Luke's this big hero. I don't know why they ruined him in The Last Jedi. Luke straight up freaking lost. Like, he beat Vader, but Palpatine was way too strong for Luke, and it's obvious.
Yep.
But he could destroy us. And it's funny because that is what Palp says to Vader. And you get Vader, Vader's like, Obi-Wan can no longer help him. And that's where you see where Vader's mindset is as a character, and you see where Palpatine's worried about the bigger picture, and all Vader's worried about.
Palpatine's worried about that relationship there, right?
Yes.
Right? Because he knows Anakin.
Oh,
front and back, man.
Yeah. He's like, well, Obi-Wan can't help him, and then Palpatine delivers the line, the Force is strong with him. And the next response was, he will join us or die, Master.
Right.
Yeah. And it's cool.
Yeah, right.
This movie in particular, it's the first one you see, besides Tarkin, you see Vader have to really kneel to someone and obey someone. And it makes Return of the Jedi's, I guess, conclusion and setup way more satisfying. This huge, beast of a man can this robotic man can be, an underling to someone, and you'll see why later. It has a really good payoff too. Empire Strikes Back does a lot of seed planting that most people want to acknowledge it for. That it really does. I think that whole sequence is amazing.
All I was gonna say was, we talked about Revenge of the Sith being one of the ones to look at for like what's coming.
Yes.
Story threads, that are going to be tied up in Rise of Skywalker. But I think this one is another one where you just like look at these kind of like little things underneath. Like I think there's a lot in Empire too.
Oh yeah.
What's going on there?
Completely agree with that, Jerry. Then we get, of course, introduced to Yoda, and we're on Dagobah, and I love this line. It's Luke has that feeling, it gives him the creeps. This place feels very familiar, and it's kind of like Rey on Ahch-To, and it's kind of like the island she sees in her dreams. It's really kind of cool that they parallel that in each sequel to the the previous one before it. And I will say this too: Crazy Yoda is my favorite Yoda. And the way his neck extends out. It's just
so good.
It's testing Luke's patience, and Luke is so naive, and I love it. They get across that, and you can see there is a giant character change from Luke at the beginning of Empire Strikes Back to Luke at the beginning of Return of the Jedi. Very, very different characters.
Oh, yeah.
And it doesn't happen in the movies. It happens off screen, which is a huge thing. Or I guess the sequence that leads to that change happens in Empire Strikes Back. This line too, I forget it, and Jerry brought it up in his notes too. Wars not make one great. It parallels to me.
Oh yeah, that's when they're back in the hut and stuff. Yeah.
Yoda's past life, but Luke's current life. I mean, it's a huge thing. Star Wars is the title of it, and maybe the Rise of Skywalker will dive into it. Wars make not one great. I mean, wars not make one great. That's a huge line, and
To me, that really kind of speaks to Yoda's arc as a character. I mean, if we're going chronological, you look at Yoda in the prequels. Typical Jedi. He was like the best of them.
Yes.
But he made mistakes, and he's not perfect Yoda in the prequels. And then here we go, the middle of his arc. Still learning. Wars don't make one great, but. He's still got to kind of come to that realization of, I don't know, where he is in The Last Jedi, that, failure's okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, which is, I don't know. Yoda has a really cool arc in this entire song.
It's the humbleness that a Jedi needs to have that it's hard.
Yes.
It's hard for humans to harness, especially if you're someone with his power. He's the most powerful Jedi ever.
Yep.
Saying wars not make one great is, in other words, saying like I could have won all the wars over my millennium on in this galaxy, but that doesn't mean anything. What matters is the outwardness, not the inwardness, and how you think.
Beautiful.
So I think that's his first way of trying to bang that over Luke's head. It's not your resume; it's who you are.
That's
more than
awesome,
anything.
man.
Right.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. One thing I want to get into for continuity's sake, because I actually never realized that, John, that you were a continuity freak. Does R2 recognize Yoda? Is that because they go to the Wills? I mean, they travel at the end of it. It's one huge thing, and I think he even calls him R2D2. I think it's brought up. I wonder because
Wait. You're saying Yoda calls R2D2 in the? Sorry, did I just miss something?
No, not in Empire Strikes Back. He does call him R2D2 in Clone Wars, that final arc before the series, quote unquote, ended.
Okay. Sorry, I had a conniption there for a second.
No, it's okay.
I don't want to be negative Nelly, but if it was up to me, and I know Lucas had to do it for the sake of there goes my camera. For the sake of tying people in and bringing people in for the prequels, I would not have had R2 or 3PO in the prequels. I know that's a hard choice, but
that is our choice. To me, I'm just like, you know what? I think I've said it before. The droids are like with Yoda and Obi-Wan not recognizing. I know like Obi-Wan dealt with him more than Yoda for one thing. Obi-Wan was probably playing coy, and they were him and R2 both, because R2 I know people get hung up on the R2 never told Luke anything. It doesn't really bother me because, yeah, I mean R2 is like, again, he holds all the cards. He knows what to tell when he needs to tell it.
Right.
Like Yoda. Droids are like the iPhones of the Star Wars galaxy, guys. I mean, you get the new one, and then the next day they're like, "Here's the next one."
Mm-hmm.
Actually, they're 2 models ahead of you now.
Right.
Yes.
So it's just they change droids like crazy. So
Yeah.
I'm just like, maybe he recognizes him, but like I think Yoda was just kind of like, yeah, this guy. I'm gonna make a scene with this R2
Kenobi too. Like I don't remember ever owning a droid, and like it makes the original trilogy tough.
It does.
And Luke, like I said, Lucas had to do it because he's like, I'm coming back, and I can't bring back Han, Luke, and Leia because of the aging element. So I have to bring back evergreen characters. How do I wedge them in? And he's like, I know, I'll have Anakin build C-3PO. I'm like,
Yeah.
It's like,
right.
And I don't hate the prequels,
Right.
I'm allowed to make fun of the prequels. Someone who hates Star Wars is not allowed to make fun of the prequels. I can make fun of them.
Exactly. No, man. Hey, there's a lot of love for the prequels here, but there's a lot of there's so much clunky stuff.
And
in
it's
those.
okay. It's okay.
It's okay.
Yes, and
guys,
okay.
we can
It's
make fun of Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
It is okay.
Star Wars
Just
makes fun
calm
of
down.
itself.
It does.
This is how it used to be before the Twitter times.
Before the dark times, before the social media.
Well, one thing I want to bring up too, and this is a little off topic of what y'all were just saying, but it plays into it a little bit. Yoda as a character is goofy. Goofy doesn't take himself seriously. That it's such a cool change of character. His face is like, can I train him? Like I can't. You need patience.
Yeah,
you need
it's
patience.
immediate too.
He says patience maybe before that scene happens 3 or 4 times. It's like patience. Oh, you need patience. It's gonna take patience to get, and then it just boom.
The Jedi, it is time to eat as well.
Yeah.
All that stuff.
One thing I love is, and people never bring it up, but Yoda literally asks Luke, why must you become a Jedi? And the only reason that Luke brings it up is completely selfish. He goes, well, my dad was a Jedi. Like that's literally all he says. He's like, it's
get into the family business.
You don't care about the greater good. You don't. And it's obvious as a character, and you will later, but right now you don't. You're selfish. And I think it's beautiful because that selfishness is paralleled in the cave. He finds himself within the dark side, which I cannot wait to talk to you about that, John. But that frustration he's having completely parallels Anakin in Attack of the Clones or Anakin in Revenge of the Sith. There's so much more anger in him, and even Yoda there's a lot of anger in him, just like his father. And he's like, no, I know I'm ready. I'm ready. And he goes, ready are you? What knows ready? And this is the best line. This is still one of the best lines that no one brings up, because this is what makes TLJ, and I don't care what anyone has to say about it, one of the best Star Wars movies for this scene in particular. When Yoda and Luke talk again, Rian Johnson throws in this exact line. This one a long time I have watched, all his life as he looked away to the future, to the horizon, never his mind on where he was. And they honestly, it's so crazy. I want to get a shot for shot pull up now, but Luke's looking off just like he is in that one scene, like kind of looking down, and then that's where he goes, knock, hits him on the head, and he doesn't do it in Empire Strikes Back.
Pokes him with his cane.
But but it's the same thing. He looks back down, and I think it's such a beautiful parallel, shot for shot, line for line. It's amazing, and you see it later. Luke goes back into Luke's old ways, and then that real big character change happens when Luke ends up on Crate. But that's for a different episode with our friend Bill Sheehy, and that's the guest for that one. I didn't mean to give it away early, but stay tuned for that.
Scotty, spoilers in this episode, man. Come on, we'll put a spoiler warning at the beginning.
But what do y'all feel about that? I mean, Jerry, it's such a incredible line because it happens again. So I don't know. What do you think?
Dude, well, I'm gonna probably blow both your minds because for some reason, my entire adult life and childhood watching these movies, I'm just now realizing that he's talking about Luke in that scene, and I always thought he was talking about Anakin because I don't know if I never heard him right saying this one
Yeah.
because it makes
Right.
so much more sense. I mean, I always thought it made sense because I thought he's like, oh, your dad, yeah, a long time, because he just was talking about I want to be because of my father.
Yeah.
All his life as he looked away to the horizon, it kind of applies to Anakin, but yeah, oh my gosh. Yeah, so you guys real time, well, sort of real time travel-y stuff, podcast, whatnot. But yeah, I'm just now getting that was Luke, and wow, that's
heavy.
perfect.
It's heavy.
That's all I got to say about it.
Well, John,
God,
what do you
about
think?
you?
A lot of people's favorite shots in Star Wars history is Luke looking at the twin suns on Lars Homestead, and if you add knowing that Yoda is watching him as we're watching him, it makes it all the more interesting.
Ooh, John, hit him where it hurts. That's beautiful. Because if you really want to take a step back, you could say we are watching that sequence from Yoda's perspective too.
Right.
Damn.
Right.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. But it's true though. It's like this character Luke is, I guess, a reason why everyone identifies with Luke. Because as much as we can enjoy this moment right now, us three hanging out and talking, or the people listening this moment, what's on your mind, and it's the rise of Skywalker. Every human being has an innate ability and an innate want to think about what's happening later in life and what you can enjoy later,
Right.
especially when it comes to things you love like this. And it's only human that Luke feels this way. That's why Luke is such a character you can relate to. It's beautiful, but and then of course you've got to be like Yoda though. You've got to be in the moment. You've got to be able to to get through this and handle it.
It's a life lesson, to be in the moment, because like they say, you never know what's going to happen today, right? You can get hit by a bus or whatever. So it's, enjoy, it's mindfulness, a modern technique, like taste your food, enjoy your sandwich. Don't think about your work meeting in 2 weeks, try to live in that moment, because, you will look back and be like, wow, that was a quick ride. And when you're at the end of the line, and hopefully for most of us, it's very further down the road, But it's a life lesson right there. And, our mortality is a very intriguing thing to all humans, because we don't know what happens next. And when you learn these lessons in these movies, it helps draw us in and want to relate to it that much more, because we define ourselves, we see ourselves in those themes.
Exactly.
It's, I did not get too philosophical with it, because we're talking about Frank Oz's hand up a puppet's ass, but
it's true though.
It's a wonderful thing that connects all humans.
Well, you bring up a beautiful point, especially in regards to wanting to finish and enjoy your sandwich. It's cool because the only time when Luke looks to the horizon and he accepts what he just did and he realizes he's in the moment is when he dies. It is his moment of death, when he fades into the Force. That is the moment, I believe, when Luke just accepts what he just did. He no longer has to look to the horizon. He has exerted himself. He has saved the Resistance. He has inspired hope. I mean, it's Luke's journey, and not that I can't say the word hate because it's too strong, but anyone that watches TLJ and doesn't get at least a fraction of that out, they all think, oh, Luke dies, it sucks. But no, he dies for a greater cause. He learned this death from Obi-Wan. He learned it from Yoda. He is just like his masters before him. He has finally achieved Zen. He is or Nirvana. He is fully in this moment, and
sure,
that is when he passes on to the next realm, and we don't know what that is, and it kind of goes into this next part of the Force where Yoda says, "You will be." In regards to him being scared, it's beautiful, and I guess this kind of drives on the point that Empire Strikes Back is the movie for the Force, and TLJ is the movie for the sequel trilogy for the Force. It makes the Force so much more of a not just a story thing, not just a power, but this way of life and this way of understanding life around you. So yeah, let's.
Yeah.
It's a full-on character in this movie.
It is. It is, Jerry.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to say
Also,
about
by the
that?
way, Scott.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
Well, no, I was gonna say all I have to say about that, Scott, is I think I'm gonna have to go cry now. The way
Cool.
you Luke there. So no, and again, look, we want to be like welcoming to everyone, whether you like Last Jedi or not. We're all Star Wars fans.
Of course.
But,
Sorry. Yeah.
Oh no, dude, no.
No, I get into it, but
all I was gonna. No, oh, dude, because I'm in the same boat. I love TLJ, but all I was gonna say was, you're absolutely right that there's there's so much in that moment. So yeah, good.
it's beautiful.
Good thoughts.
But
I agree. Yeah.
Not to jump over into the next thing, but we have the part where they escape from the asteroid and they shoot the ground. And I think, not to say there's a filler scene in this movie, but this is the only scene that's like, the Minox scares them. And it's one of those, like, we got to get from point A to point B scenes. And I like that he shoots the ground. And it does a very old-fashioned thing with filmmaking, the tilting of the camera. And everyone acts like they're tilting.
Oh, yeah.
And then, I love it. It's
We're gonna
very...
shake, and you guys pretend like you're going to fall.
Right.
Okay?
But that doesn't happen in any other Star Wars movie either. And it looks believable, which is actually kind of strange because when you see that in like Batman or you see that in old stuff, it looks like garbage, but
Sometimes simplest is best.
it is. And it even if Irvin Kershner was like, to the right, and they're all going to the right, like it's...
Like what? Yeah.
I mean, they had to have
Like
been
a bowling
directed.
alley after prom.
It's so convincing, and I don't know if they've tweaked it since, but it actually is pretty good. And like I said before, the Falcon is another character in this. They all get back in the Falcon, and they get up and they launch out the mouth of this beast, and it's biblical, it's interesting, it's one of those scenes that often gets overlooked, but it's another one of those scenes. It's not often overlooked. I'm sorry, it's often riffed. I mean, everyone's got their own version. Family Guy, The Simpsons, Robot Chicken has their own version of the puppet reaching out and almost trying to eat the Falcon.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
Yeah.
I guess to kind of jump back into some more force-heavy stuff, we've got Luke's training happening in this sequence. And I actually, for our listeners and for our two hosts here, I bundled up everything with Dagobah after this with the training. So just follow along, I guess. The dark side cave stuff is great. That comes a little bit later. But I love that the beginning of Luke's training is all physical at first. And it's just Yoda giving him advice. And he's testing his ability to jump and move. And he might even be using the Force when he does it. I don't know. But a very important line is stated here. If once you start down the dark path, forever will it dominate your destiny. So we know this parallels Anakin. We see that. Straightforward, we see that. But it can parallel Luke's life a little bit, but I'm curious to hear what y'all have to say about Ben Solo's life, because he's trying his absolute hardest to go to the dark side, and every time he does, it's just like a nope, finding the dice, killing his dad. It's just that's what I'm looking for. The Rise of Skywalker the most is what the hell they're going to do with this character, and how is he going to either be redeemed or become further evil in his ways. But anyway,
John, you can go ahead and feel free to go. Lacey's not going to be on here until Awakens, so you feel free to say whatever you wish, sir.
Yeah. I don't know. I think not to take us too far away from Empire, but as far as Ben Solo's concerned, I think I mean they opened the door for his redemption by reintroducing Palpatine. Until that happened, I thought it would have been moronic because who is he defeating at that point? Who's the big bad? They already wiped out Snoke. So when you reintroduce Palpatine, you kick the door open for Redemption Avenue, and he's gonna walk through it. I still think he's going to die, but I think that's part of the destiny that Yoda might be talking about. He may have already sealed his fate in a way, but he doesn't have to. Just because there's an end game there, it doesn't mean how he gets that end game is written.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we're still in the middle of Yoda's arc when he says this, right? So he says, "Forever will it dominate destiny." He's in the midst of the darkness, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
After Return of the Jedi, we see there is possibility and stuff. Then you've got, again, paralleling to TLJ, failure the greatest teacher is.
Yeah,
Sure.
That's huge.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Well,
So.
this is one thing is, of course, like I said earlier, you can totally say that's Anakin's life because it is. I mean, he went down that he killed the Tusken Raiders. He then went and killed the Jedi, and it just all went downhill from there. But if you were to relate it to Luke's life, Luke not does he doesn't really live, and he doesn't dive into the dark side. But it's cool to think that through what he does, the mistakes he makes leads to the dark side then being reborn again in Ben Solo. So it kind of does relate to Luke, but not to the extent of which, it's like Anakin or even Ben Solo.
Right.
Yeah.
Anakin was an obsessive person.
Yes. Oh,
he
yes.
obsessed over Padme so much so that he would do anything to save her. That's what led him to the dark side. Now he's obsessed over finding his son, and he'll do whatever it takes. So that is carried over throughout his whole life. I don't see that in Luke. So
No.
that's obviously why he didn't end up turning. But the obsession factor in Vader / Anakin's personality seemed to always be there. And I don't know if Padme is the one that sparked that or whatever, but obviously we see it carry through the most here in Empire when he's searching desperately for Luke Skywalker.
Yes.
Right.
Well, one thing I want to bring up is the dark side cave, because the dark side cave is, like Yoda says, a place that's strong on the dark side of the Force. And one thing that I think is interesting, because we see that Ben Solo does go back to this dark side cave, and that whole sequence is cool with Ben Solo because it shows him his fears and shows him things he's scared of. But he destroys the dark side cave. Now, I don't know if that's an act of redemption or if it's an act of just he might be so fully engulfed in the dark side he can destroy it. I don't know. But
I think that's that he's got that temper, and that he just can't bring himself to 100% look in his parents' eyes and destroy them.
Well,
until Force Awakens.
Right.
Come to think of
but
it.
he still can't.
Right.
But he still can't kill his mother, which I hope is touched upon. And unfortunately, it might not be. But I hope it's taken and dealt with in its own weird way for the Rise of Skywalker. But whenever I watch, actually, before I give you my opinion and before you all look at the notes and read it, what is your interpretation of Vader fighting himself? I'm sorry, Luke fighting Vader, but it is himself. How do you interpret it? Because I with of course the lenses of I'm looking at this from a way different analytical point of view than I ever have. How do you interpret it, John? Like in particular, that whole look and feel.
To me, it's just kind of if you choose the path of fear and the easy way, this is what you'll become.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he thinks he's fighting, Vader, and then the mask bursts and he sees his own face in there. It's like, that could be you if you follow that same trail of breadcrumbs that your father followed, even though he doesn't know it's his father. We know.
Doesn't know it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's one of those things. This is what you could become if one of those types of things. Like I don't know, like not like a Christmas Carol or so. Like this could be your future. If you you keep going this way, Scrooge, that type of thing. It's always that like this is your life or a wonderful story, whatever that movie is, A Wonderful Life. This could be it if you don't change your ways, type of thing. So choose wisely. I think it's just that one of that like a fable. Like you need to learn.
It
your
is like a
lessons
fable. It's biblical too, in its own weird right. It's kind of like I said, it's very mythological, and it's very much like old Greek or old ancient storytelling. Jerry, what do you think of it?
I don't know. You can do one of two. I think the main thing again is what John said. It's like this is if you're not careful, it's the dark path that Yoda talked about. This can be you, but you can also retroactively say. I think what we as big sweaty nerds like to do is we like to go back and go like, it was his father, so that's what it was saying. Like,
yeah.
But I think when you look at these kind of scenes, like the only other one that we really have that's kind of comparable, I feel like, is in TLJ, that mirror cave.
Yeah.
If you're not careful, you can start, and not to poo-poo anyone's theories, but the whole like, there's a lot of her, so it means she's a clone. Maybe. The whole point of these things, the Force isn't showing you, here's kind of a weird, obscure, artsy-looking thing. Like, It's more of like this is what your inner conflict is.
That's
This
beautiful.
is what your future could be.
Right.
Yeah.
The force is more, and I don't know if we can just go to Scotty what I was talking about. I kind of wrote down, which it could lead us into the X-wing later on here.
Yeah, definitely.
But talking about how the force is not a superpower. Like we
No.
like to think it's like, it's almost like I know people kind of make fun of like, oh, it's like a video game. You got to have this many points. You got to train for this long. But it almost seems to me like the more I watch these movies, and even, I mean, it's established in the original trilogy. Luke's not training to, like, it's not like, okay, now you do X, Y, and Z, and that makes
yeah.
lift a rock.
Yeah.
It's basically like, dude, you've got to like get yourself out of your head and believe that you can do anything. It reminds me, and again, here you go. Let me get on my soapbox here, and I'll go ahead and preach to you guys. No, I'm just kidding. No, but there's a passage in the Bible that talks about, like faith. You could say to a mountain, go throw yourself in the sea,
Yes.
and it'll have enough faith. That's almost to me what the force kind of is.
It's true.
Because look at like anything you can do with it. It's like it's really, and this can almost get into video game territory. It's almost the only borders that you have with the force is what your mind tells you can't do.
Yeah.
So it's more like, to me, it's not like the force is not a superpower. Again, and they talk about the Jedi being a religion,
Right.
but it's not a superpower. It's the force is faith, kind of like
Well,
faith
you
that
said
I can
Luke.
do this. I can lift this thing. I can bring this up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's getting outside yourself and trusting. Anyway, tangent over. So there you go.
No, but like you said, Luke in particular having this moment of in the cave with the Wampa, he had to close his mind and feel for it and make it happen.
Open himself up.
Yeah, to allow it to.
You are going to go through this physical, like, exhaustion and stuff
Yeah.
to get your mind to the point to where you can go like, no, you know what? I'm just going to believe that I can lift the rock, and you can lift the rock.
Right.
But anyway, so that's where I
But
was.
it's believing in the Force. It's like, in A New Hope, Luke saying to Han, you don't believe in the Force, do you? And, Luke always kind of, I felt, because Obi-Wan was like that other father figure, he believed in the Force in a sense,
Yes.
and he just had to learn how to understand it. It's like Indiana Jones and the leap of faith, walking out to the invisible bridge.
Right,
You have to
yeah.
you have to take that leap and believe in the process, believe what it is.
Well, if you don't mind, I want to tell you
100%,
my
man.
interpretation to the scene because, like you, the sweaty nerds that we are, you can say, "Oh, it's because that's his dad, and that's a little bit of him inside of his dad." I took it in a little bit of a similar way, but it's different. I think this sequence really parallels Luke's life with dealing with temptations. This whole thing's about dealing with the temptations of you see he touches the dark side. He taps into it when he cuts his father's hands off, only to realize he's just like his father before him. If he does what he
Right.
does, he sees the metal arm and that the robotic arm he obtains in his own father.
Right.
And this is another
Right.
beautiful part that happens. How does this affect his future? Him slicing off the helmet. He has that moment of thought in TLJ before he does even before he even does it. It like he says, it comes to him in like a fleeting what's the exact word? Like a fleeting shadow. It disappears.
It passed like a fleeting shadow.
Passed like
Yeah.
a fleeting shadow. That same thing is that touch of dark side. Luke's always going to have it, and he is the one that ends up creating the Vader of the sequel trilogy. In the end, he ends up being the one that makes the dark side reappear and awaken in this young boy. And
Yeah.
I think maybe that's what it might parallel as well. It can parallel his father, his past, but it can also parallel the future of him and what is going to be the outcome of your temptation to the dark side. And like Yoda
Sure.
says, go in there, don't bring your weapons. And Luke's kind of like, well, yeah, right, dude. I'm going to bring my weapons. I mean, it's dark
The
side.
first thing he does is,
There's snakes in there.
Yeah. Well, and I think this is where I can kind of get on my soapbox. He creates his own future. And the future, and if you think about the Skywalker lineage, the future of the Skywalkers is now Kylo Ren. And he is the reason for creating that. And I think if I were to take it and write my own story about it, I think that's what the dark side cave would mean to me as a viewer.
And correct me if I'm wrong, so I could be. Does Luke ignite his saber first when he encounters Vader in the cave?
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
Yep.
He does. You hear it ignite and he brings it up, and then Vader brings his up.
Because that's exactly what happens. We'll get to it in a bit, I guess, on Cloud City. Is Luke fires up first, and Vader's like, "Okay,
yeah,
I guess we're gonna do this.
We're doing this." Yeah. A little bit of that look into the future thing, man.
It is, and
that's so Luke.
It is Luke. It is so Luke. That's so Luke.
Sorry, I'm having flashes of That's So Raven.
It's true though. He ends up being the bane of his own existence in the end.
Yep.
Then we get, of course, it ends, and it's never really discussed by Yoda, which is kind of interesting with Luke, right? I don't think they talk about it, do they? Or like, isn't it kind of brought up? Or no? Okay, I really don't remember now. But we get to the part where I think it cuts back to Han and Leia, and then it's him lifting rocks. And I love that Luke lifting the rocks is very zen. He figured it out. And the part that changes him, though, is the lack of concentration in the X-Wing. It starts sinking, and it ruins him. It ruins him from not really going deeper into the Force, which is what he needs to do. And of course, he says he can't do it. I can't do this. I have to. I can't lift it up. He tries doing it, and he's not concentrating. He's closing his eyes and doing it. He's not Jerry says. He's focusing on it. You can't focus on it. You just do it.
It's the lightsaber in the snow. It's the same exact thing.
Same exact thing. Exactly. That's beautiful. Wow. It's the same exact thing, and that's something I have in my classroom. I have
almost like professionals wrote this movie or something.
Yeah, it's almost like they're storytellers. But that do or do not, there is no try. I don't preach to my students in Star Wars language. I work at a Catholic school. I can preach to them in faith, but above one of my doors it says do or do not. There's no try. I mean, you say you need to go home and study. I mean, you're gonna either do it or you're not. I mean, there's not gonna be a trying. You can't try anything. You gotta do it. It's in the moment. Trying it is something you might think about doing, but doing it is actually the act of doing it. Just like looking to the horizon. Now this.
So I love the subversion of that in Rebels though, where he's like, "What? That makes no sense. How can I do something? I'll try it first." No, it's such a great moment. They learned it at the end of that episode, kids. We won't get into that right now.
John, I don't mean to take over and make you read something, but I have it in the show notes if you have it in front of you. I want you to read the lines that Yoda says to Luke during the speech, because I love this speech. This is if I were to do a top 3 favorite moments of Star Wars, this is in my top 3. I don't know which one it categorized, but it's the size matters not speech. And I think one of my favorite quotes in here. Size matters not. Look at me. Judge me by my size, do you? And well, you should not. For my ally is the Force, and a powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow. Its energy surrounds us and binds us. Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter. You must feel the Force around you. Here, between you, me, the tree, the rock, everywhere. Yes, even between the land and the ship. It's amazing because
you became Yoda by the end of that. Sorry, that was pretty good.
The way you delivered it was perfect, but you got to realize this is so fundamental Star Wars, and you can credit to Frank Oz's delivery, but. That puppet, when you watch it as a viewer, you don't go, what a silly, stupid little puppet talking. You're like, whoa, you're sitting there and you're like,
Yoda is talking, guys.
Yes.
This is Star Wars. This is what makes these films great. This is why you love them. My grandfather loved this movie. I remember talking to him about the scene. You would lean in and be like, this is really cool. This is just, this is Star Wars, but for the sake of storytelling, I want to flip it real quick. This is what Luke does to Rey on TLJ. Same word for word. No, focus. Place your hand on the ground. Feel it. And then, she's like, I feel the Force within me. And you see it. Life creates it. Makes it grow. It's energy. It surrounds us. It binds us. Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter. Is such an incredible line. Such a good line. But you have to feel it around you, okay? It's between you, me, the rock, the tree. It's just... I love it. It's such a tasteful way to make it sound like it's a bigger part of you, you know?
Yeah.
But what do you feel about it, Jerry? Why this scene? To me, it's probably one of the best scenes in this whole movie.
I don't know. You guys have really said it, like, pretty. I don't know what I could even add. It's just this is quintessential. It's like you're saying, Scotty. It really is, and it's really cool how this touches so many generations. Like so many people, just really look to this, even this moment here. Like everything with Luke and Yoda on Dagobah is just, like you said in here, magical.
Yeah.
And it just, I don't know, that the whole thing about him lifting the X-wing out of the swamp.
God,
that was
Well,
such
the
a. And
music
I mean, now,
is insane. Yeah.
oh, it's so good. That Yoda theme is magical. I remember like the first time I remember going to Disney. I went to Disney World when I was 3, and then I went again whenever I was in high school. And I remember like hearing as you're walking into Hollywood Studios the Yoda theme.
Mm-hmm.
wow.
And that just it transports you.
Right.
Like no matter where you are, you're on Dagobah. You're watching Yoda.
Oh,
bring
without a doubt.
the
Yeah.
ship there, and it's cool. We've seen stuff that's like, we've seen maybe stuff that you might consider more visually impressive.
Yes.
1980, when all you've seen is Darth Vader imagining he's choking someone and then actually like choked. It's improv. No, but we have a little green Muppet. Not to pine on that, but lifting this huge ship out of the swamp and it still looks pretty good. It doesn't
Oh, sure.
really hokey at all. Like
Yes.
it's just again a testament to George, the team at ILM, John Williams, the Dream Team, man,
Yeah.
Dream Team.
But
So,
what's up, John?
I was just going to say, sometimes if you look at some of the best movies of all time, the less special effects you use is sometimes
yeah.
the better way to tell the narrative. Because Jaws is the greatest shark movie ever, and there's been plenty of shark movies since with better special effects. And it just goes to show you that you don't need to have all this crazy bells and whistles to deliver a scene like that.
It's true.
Absolutely.
And the thing about this scene in particular for me, it's just like it's overcoming the impossible. I mean, this dude literally, and I think it's one of the only shots where you see Luke standing right next to him. And it's like up to Luke's like middle of his kneecap. Like, I'm sorry, middle of his shin. Like, he's such a small character. You don't get the perspective till like right there. And like, he lifts an X-Wing out of the water. It's this, and it's deep in the water. It's not just sitting there. And it's overcoming the impossible. And I think Luke doesn't understand overcoming the impossible until he then transfers himself to Crate, and he's then on this whole different planet. He's in two places at once. I think the impossible in Star Wars is always answered through the Force, and maybe the impossible outcome of Luke of Ben being redeemed that Rey sees with him is definitely not impossible. It very well could happen, and I think it's going to take a lot of things to happen for that redemption to occur. But in regards to this scene in particular, if you don't believe in it, you fail. That I don't believe it. And then the greatest line ever, that is why you fail. And then we can jump back to TLJ. The greatest teacher, failure, is for this reason. Is because you don't believe in it. If you're going to believe in it, at least learn from it if you do make a mistake and if you do fail.
Sure.
And and Jerry brought this up in his notes. It's not a superpower. It's faith. It is you believing in something that might not exist, and it's you just putting your heart and pouring yourself into it. And it's Luke doesn't believe in it. He doesn't. He's not invested.
You don't learn how to play Mike Tyson's Punch Out if you have the code to the final fight.
You're right. You
need to fail. Right. You need to get knocked down by Piston Honda a few times. Yep. Yes. Yeah.
But it's true. It's true. And I mean, I know I'm kind of going off here, but it's like Luke doesn't understand it. And a lot of people, maybe I've seemed to have forgotten. I thought immediately after that scene ended, he gets on the X-Wing and leaves. But he has a little bit more training. And then we get this reveal that there's such things as Force visions in Star Wars. And he says, he's lifting the R2 in the crates. He says, through the Force, things you will see, other places, the future, the past, old friends long gone, And then it breaks his concentration. And he's like, I saw a cloud. I saw a city in the clouds. And he's, are my friends okay? And he says, difficult to see, always in motion is the future.
Yep.
And that's Attack of the Clones. That's Revenge of the Sith. Because they thought they had their shit figured out. And they didn't. Obviously they didn't. It's true. It's almost hard to watch these movies and not see this overall connection. Because it's humongous. And I'm kind of rushing through it, but we get Obi-Wan back as a Force ghost. And, this next line is beautiful. And I hope Yoda says it. I didn't write down who said it, but it says, "Remember your failure in the cave." Now, I want to hear.
Yoda, yeah.
I want to hear interpretations. How did Luke fail? Because I can't figure it out. Maybe one of you can convince me. Because I don't know how he failed. Because I don't think he failed. I think he realized something.
He took his weapon. To go down there. I don't know. I think you could probably argue that he may have not even seen Vader. If down there without his weapons, he could have. Who knows what he could have seen? But like that, he chose to. And not just that, like, weapons bad. Just that he's like he doesn't trust himself, and he's fearful. And again, fear is the path to the dark side.
Yep.
As we found in the prequels, and also, again, he's impulsive. He ignites his saber first. He strikes a killing blow.
Yep.
Which, if there's anything we learn in these movies, I mean, we kill a lot of Sith. They're our speciality, but also. Luke doesn't win Return of the Jedi until he turns off his saber and throws it away. Says,
Yep.
"I'm not gonna be like you," and that is, and still even sticking true to his character in TLJ, finds a way to help, but still keep his stance of, "I'm not gonna play your game. I'm gonna turn it on its head."
Right.
Freaking love that.
It's beautiful, man.
That's
beautiful.
a good point. Yeah.
What do you think, John?
He may have written his own vision. I like that way of looking at that. Yoda setting it up by saying, strong with the dark side, a remainer of evil it is, like the cave. So, and, people have their theories on, what happened there or why it is or whatever. So whatever Luke encounters there, there's a tinge of darkness there. And Jerry, to your point, maybe if he doesn't bring his weapons, it's a different version of the dark side, not necessarily combative. It may be something more like what Anakin saw in Mortis.
Maybe his aunt and uncle, saying like, "Why'd you let us down?" Or
it could be something a mental torture. Yeah, sure. Ezra seeing his family via Rebels. In the World Between Worlds. It could be a lot of things, but I think his failure is he didn't have trust. He went in without trusting Yoda, telling him to just go in there and encounter it. Don't try to manipulate the situation. So his failure was his fear, and because of his fear, he tried to manipulate the situation instead of just encountering it and experiencing it. So I think that may be his failure. By trying to manipulate the situation, that's what got Anakin in trouble in the first place. He tried to manipulate his situation.
Dude, that's beautiful, because you got to think about it. If it wasn't for those dreams, that's so Raven sequence, if he hadn't seen those dreams, he would have never acted upon those impulses and tried to do what he did. It's amazing. And there's one line that I want to bring up that Obi-Wan does say, "I cannot interfere." He cannot join, and that is you, Luke. You decided to go when you are not ready. I cannot interfere. That is your dumb decision, and it ends up costing Luke a hand, and it ends up causing the rebellion a loss, and it's a very small loss for the rebellion, but for these characters that we love and grow with, it's one of those. It's like Infinity War. It's over. It ends on a note where you're like, oh my god, like what a downer. It's
it's funny as I watched that movie with my mom this summer when they came up to visit, and they're about to come back up next week. But it's funny because we got to the end of that, she was loving it, and she goes, "Wait, that's the end? Where's the?" It's just funny, but you're 100% right.
It's true.
Look at Now, these lines may not wind up in The Rise of Skywalker, and I apologize for de-evergreening this episode for you guys. But
no, it's fine.
Luke saying, "This is your fight." That's his way of saying, maybe he's saying this to Rey. We're assuming this is your fight now. I can't interfere. That's another way of saying that. So it makes me think Luke's not going to be popping in as a Force ghost and saving the day. So it's that whole thing. Like, this is your journey now. Like Obi-Wan had his fight, and he failed in certain respects, but
Right.
that's Luke's fight now. And also just from a movie making perspective, it would have been horrible if Obi-Wan just like popped in and he's like, "Hey, I'm over here." Distracts Vader or something,
Could you imagine?
Yeah.
But it gives credence to like everything that they say in Harry Potter. It's like once these people are dead, and that final battle sequence in Harry Potter where everyone shows back up. I hope, in its own weird vein, I hope we don't get that in Rise of Skywalker, because I don't want that. This is not about the if they show up giving Rey a
it's
lesson
about Rey,
before
right?
it happens. If there's a Force vision where Rey's like, "Oh my God, I see Qui-Gon and all these people before me," that would be beautiful. But I don't want Rey to be like locked in the lightsabers with Palpatine, and all of a sudden Obi-Wan pops up, Luke pops. It's just like,
I know.
It ruins it for the development of Rey as a character, and we don't know what it's going to be like. We haven't seen the movie yet, and the reason why we're doing this build-up is because speculation can run wild, and that's an awesome thing. But you got to realize it's all rooted in this storytelling. If he can't interfere here, what makes you think he's going to interfere later?
Exactly. Right.
I love the line where Obi-Wan says, "Luke, don't give in to hate. That leads to the dark side," which then, boom, prequels just totally makes that a thing. And this line that I still think is very interesting, and I'm not going to try to tie it into The Mandalorian. I don't want to reveal any Mandalorian spoilers, but it says that boy is our last hope. And then Yoda says, "No, there is another." And I interpret it, and from a certain point of view, kind of breaks it
The
down.
Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
You know, like from a certain point of view, kind of, and I know, John, you probably don't like that book that much. I think you said that in your show, but one of the best stories is Yoda talking about how he wished he had trained Leia. And that Leia is so much more of a Jedi, so much more of a headstrong character, so much more of a go-get-'em than Luke is. So Leia is always in the moment. If you think about Leia as a character, she is the ideal Jedi, hands down.
Right.
Just based on what we know about Jedi.
I laughed because I'm not sure what date you guys are putting this episode out.
Oh, no.
But in one of my most... okay. Because in one of my most recent rumor reviews that may have came out, say this is Tuesday, yesterday or something like that.
Yes.
I tackle a theory of people looking to retcon Yoda saying there is another, and I'll leave it there.
A little sizzle, man. There you go.
Yes.
No, but I don't think that's the case. I don't think he would be mentioning that, because it's a beautiful part too. Is when the red light illuminates of the X-wing taking off. It's such a cool lighting sequence.
Then like Obi-Wan's there, then it goes dark, then the red comes, and Obi-Wan's gone. It is a cool visual. Well, let's stop pretending, guys. We all clearly know, John, that Matt Smith, of course, is the...
That's right.
That
is right.
Damn
you guys saw it. I tweeted an exclusive of his character poster for episode 9.
Great. How did you get that?
That was fantastic.
Is it called JJ? Jazz JJ? You're like, how did?
Yeah, he's like, look, I had this laying around. It's gonna be the B-side set of the the and
very nice.
Yeah.
After the movie
These are all
releases,
the characters we couldn't reveal.
Well, it's gonna be funny when I see the episode 9 and he shows up and is a major part of the movie, and I'm gonna be like, the tweets I'm gonna have to mute. Oh man,
from the first shot or something.
Unless he's not in the movie, and then people are like, "Hey, that guy was right about something for once." Okay.
Well, I remember the big thing. Apparently, I don't know where I read this, or it might have been hypothesized in my head, but we're kind of going off the beaten path. But the big thing was like Trevorrow had him initially on there or something, and it was later like theorized that, oh no, maybe it's not the sequence we want to go with. But anyway, okay, that's John.
I hear things sometimes, and sometimes I can't say things or report things, and sometimes they're rumors, and sometimes they're speculation, and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, he can either confirm or deny it. But anyway, to kind of tie into The Mandalorian, this kind of goes off, it kind of cuts, because this movie, like I said, cuts very interestingly. It's kind of like Attack of the Clones, kind of all over the place. But you kind of get this reveal, this idea of bounty hunters in Star Wars, and or mercenaries or whatever you would call them. And I think Jon Favreau, before we knew anything about The Mandalorian, they were like, what's your biggest inspiration for this? And he goes, that scene from Empire Strikes Back with all the bounty hunters standing there. I want to know about them. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, we're getting that. Y'all, we're sitting through those shows now. And his little, whatever age he was, must have been 15 or 14 watching that. That mindset he was in is now coming into fruition now. It's freaking badass. It is awesome.
Absolutely.
It's amazing. But I don't know. I like the bounty hunter sequence. What do y'all think?
Oh, it's great. I mean, it's so fast, but there's so much character to it, and so it's always been one of my favorite parts. Especially Bosk standing on the we know his name is Bosk now, but standing on the edge of the terminal pit, going like
his toes hanging over the edge there.
Yeah, just like letting it hang free, man.
And you know that Vader was so obsessed that he's hiring contractors, and meanwhile you have the other Empire workers saying we don't need their scum here, even though Vader's the one who requested it. So I find that interesting from an Empire political tug of war standpoint. Even though Vader will choke you out at any moment if you think he can't hear you, they'll be like, "What's this guy doing, man? We don't need bounty hunters."
Well, I think as a
I do. Oh, sorry.
No, Jerry, you talk, babe.
Well, all I was gonna say was one really random thing from that scene. I love the Imperial who's just like, this is just a part of his job, just another day going like, those rebels won't escape us, and so just like another day at the office.
That's it.
Coffee mug in his hand.
Yeah.
Sorry, calf.
Right. Yeah.
I just love how half-hearted this. Those rebels won't escape.
No, it's a good point.
Do some paperwork now.
Well, it's one thing I want to bring up too, and especially in regards to that. It's the mundanity of Star Wars is what we like the most about it, because it's like you said, that guy's just like at his work. He's like, well, we're gonna get him. But on the other hand, I'll never forget when I was in second or third grade, and I first got a visual dictionary. The first people I turned to was the bounty hunters, and I learned about Forlom, Dengar, Bosk, IG-88, and then you get Boba Fett, and the line "no disintegrations" to me has way more meaning, because that sounds like using a thermal detonator and blowing someone up. Not the case from what we've seen. Maybe it's not the same thing, but I would hypothesize that no disintegrations is very much present in the Mandalorian. But anyway, I love that sequence. It's very short. It's maybe even less than a minute. I think it might be 45 seconds. And it's just it's cool because Vader can't fuss at them like he can a stormtrooper. He's more like, you're gonna go find them, and no disintegrations. He's not like he's they're in a weird way they're on equal terms. But anyway, we get the Falcon running away. I wrote in my notes how many people would hate this plot line today of just the Falcon being on the back of the Star Destroyer. We don't know where it's at. It's just people would be so livid about that. Let's be real. People would be.
Well, this is what they would say. Disney compares Falcon to garbage.
Yes, exactly. That's amazing.
Oh, that's great. Oh man.
But this him hiding on the back of the Star Destroyer is a Han character development. He's just clever. He knows the weird ways.
Han being Han, baby.
Just Han being Han. And I love that Lando in this scene is introduced through dialogue. He's not just another character. He's kind of built-in mystery. Right. It makes his entrance way more intriguing, and inevitably what he does to the crew later is I guess fitting how Han describes him. He's a scoundrel.
Sure.
Oh, the man is a scoundrel. That man screws everyone by the end of it.
Right. I don't trust him, but he is my friend.
There you go. That's huge.
Yeah.
I guess I want to get back into it, and it's not just because John's here. I would have brought this up with any other guest, but there's a lot of things where it's mentioned, like, I haven't seen you in such a long time, you old scoundrel, whatever. I don't think that refers to the sequences that happen in Solo. It might vaguely, but I don't think it refers directly to it. Because if they are going to make Solo 2 happen, or if they're going to dive back into Lando, because I had heard there might be a rumor, and I don't know who even sourced this, but if they do a Lando story, a Lando series, Han could show, whatever. What I'm trying to get at is I don't think that Solo answered all the questions that were left off in Empire Strikes Back. I really don't. Because there has to be more history between them. They didn't leave whatever.
We joke about
they
that.
Barely hung out.
We joke about that on TRB sometimes. Mainly James is always like, anytime they bring up a Han and Lando story, people are like, that's the one that they're talking about in Empire, whether it's something from Last Shot or a comic. Like anytime one of them punches the other one in the face or something, like that's the one that they're going to end with.
Right.
Well,
it was probably 2 weeks before A New Hope, man. He's just like,
Jerry, how do you feel about that?
You
man?
forgot my dry cleaning list. I just the same way, man. Like I never thought that was the last. Nothing in Solo made me think like, oh, this is exactly what this is the last time they're interacting, because there's more of a history with them than just like, yeah, we did that Kessel Run thing one time when that cool, yeah, you beat my ship, and he's just I don't know, just like even the way he's like, what'd you do to my ship? You know, it's more jovial. So these guys have more of a history. So. Many more Han and Lando adventures to come, guys. Han, Lando, and Chewie. Sorry, no worries. Okay.
I want to bring up
hashtag make Solo 2 happen.
I want to bring up Lando as a character too, because I want to hear your opinion. Both being all three of us being males, it's very interesting. I'm not trying to make it a sexual thing, but to me, Lando is not a sexy character. He's smooth. I think they take the Han character and make him even smoother. Like they kind of take the Han being such a cool rebel dude and making him more charming and more smooth. And I think I'm honestly very excited for the Rise of Skywalker, because I don't think he's gonna be smooth, but I think he's still gonna be cool as hell. You know, it's weird. Mm-hmm. Like when I look at Lando, I'm like, man, I really wish I could be like him. Like, how can you grin in such a way that it's like, it's just like you're a cool dude and you can admit it, you know?
Sure.
It's nothing, I guess, provocative about it. He's just cool as shit. Sorry for my language. Right. He's awesome.
No, yeah, without a doubt. I just think, Lando is like smooth, but he is a BS artist.
That's why.
Yeah, there's always some kind of motive behind what he's saying, where Han is a BS artist, but because he doesn't know what his next move is.
Yes, that's
Han is way more Han is way more deliberate than Lando is. Like Han will blow someone away and flip you a coin and say sorry about the mess. That's where their personalities are a bit different. And I get what you're saying about how he's more smooth and Han's more of like I want to be like Han, because Han's more of like a cowboy. I feel like Lando's more of a calculator and Han's more instinctive.
That's awesome. What do you think, Jerry?
I mean, 100%. Scotty, I don't know what you're saying, man. This is his sex appeal incarnate, you know? No, dude. I mean, you take like, I don't know, like sex appeal and some Colt 45 and mix it together in like some kind of like hydraulic chamber. You're going to come out with Billy D. Williams, man. I mean, we saw him at that panel in Celebration. Like, the dude's still... But he hasn't lost a step, dude. Just sitting there like, you know what? I don't know what half this stuff is, but I don't care. You love me.
Exactly.
He's like,
you know what I mean?
Everyone's still mad at me about what I did to Han Solo. Nobody died, did they?
That was so awesome. Oh my gosh, that was such a great line. It's like, but did you die?
It's good. Anyway. Everyone gives him a hard time, but did he die? This next line though is very interesting because I wonder what it means, and you know what? I probably haven't watched Empire like fully and like with a really strong mindset like I have right now since I saw Solo the first time in theaters. But he says this line: "Seeing you sure brings back a few things," and I wonder if that's missions we haven't seen, missions we have seen, or if it means Kira, you know, or what is Kira's fate? It's pretty awesome. That line has so much more weight now, and it makes me want to see another movie with Alden. It just does, or something.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Disney Plus series, man. I'm pulling for that still, which is the same thing. But anyway, I just
Imagine 8 episodes Han and Chewie called like the Adventures of Han Solo, kind of like an Indiana Jones thing, like Han Solo and the blank, Han Solo and the blank, you know.
Man.
But yeah, I mean, he had to have been talking about the Kessel Run, because that's like one of those moments in your life where that's like, I almost died, and it was a life-changing experience for me.
Yes.
Like it
It's
literally.
point.
So he's definitely talking about at least that.
Totally, I agree, and it's watching this movie now. Seeing them together, it warms my heart. It really does. Like it really did. And like watching them walk around, he's like, "Man, look what you've become. You're not the guy I remember meeting." At the sabacc table.
I love that line of he's like making fun of him for being responsible. He's like, "Yeah, I'm responsible." You know?
Yeah.
It's just such like a
Well,
whatever.
I mean, I'm sure you all have friends. I have a friend that I love talking to, but I don't get enough I don't make, and I feel bad. We don't talk as often as we want. And we went to high school together, and he was my best friend. And he had his own Millennium Falcon. He had a blue Jeep. His name is Cody. We're so tight. And then when we see each other, it's the same. Like I said, seeing his face like brings back memories that I completely forget otherwise until I speak to him. Mm-hmm. And I know I would hope every male and female that has this and sees this movie or listens to this episode will have a friend that they think about and maybe give him a call today. I don't know. I'm probably going to call Cody tomorrow now that I'm thinking about him. But it's one of those moments. It's one of those moments. But we get into 3PO being blown up by what we now know is a stormtrooper. And I love the 3PO and Chewbacca interactions that happen for the rest of the movie are phenomenal. It's something I never knew I wanted until seeing it, and it's just hilarious.
You put overgrown furball.
Yes, it's brutal. Now it's kind of funny. I don't know what this means. This might be me looking way too into it, but I love that 3PO is being fixed by Chewbacca. But, Anakin made 3PO initially. So I don't know if it's like a Ben Solo thing or if it's just me being really picky and noticing a lot of bizarre connections. But I don't know. Like, it's kind of odd. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have brought it up. I don't know. It's weird.
You get that saga tunnel vision when you're going like as in depth as we've been doing. So
I guess I do kind of have it.
Wait. It's like John was talking about earlier. Like, wait, C-3PO was made by Anakin?
Yes, yeah.
What's going on?
And then Chewbacca
I know.
helped him, and then Chewbacca shot his nephew or his grandson. It's just, it's a lot.
Oh, man.
But
it's like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
It is.
Right.
I love this line from Lando, which happens after. Having trouble with your droid? Like, that's such a no shit. Like, yes. Like, obviously, he's destroyed.
The Rick Olay of this series.
Yes.
The Captain.
Right.
I want to know from your perspectives, and I know we all have funny opinions on this, and we're going on for a while. I'm sorry, I probably got both of y'all delirious. I know it's late where you're at. Vader's sitting at the table, and knowing like what was going through each character's mind, especially Lando, is like, oh, we just made a deal that'll get him out of here in no time. Doors open, and there he is.
Man,
what was that dinner like? Like, what could have been discussed?
Well, you know what? I think that dinner was very awkward. It was probably something straight out like The Office, like Michael Scott sitting with Jan.
Yeah.
Gold.
Yeah. Right.
It's that dinner party from The Office. There's going to be a lot of Office references in this one where they like all go to Michael and Jan's house.
Yeah.
And it's like awkward. But what I want to know about is what was going on before they opened the door. We're like, just
let's chill here.
There and like, all right, Boba, you stay over there. How awkward was that? I don't know. Maybe someone like I don't know. I don't know if I heard that on the Resistance broadcast or something, John. If you guys were talking about that one time, but that just like, I just think that is a very funny like. What are they doing? Just like, okay, hold on. It's like a surprise party.
I think, it might have been our episode where we talked about that Darth Vader is the most dramatic character in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Or something.
I think it was. One of you guys said something like that.
Yeah, he needed someone to like give him a signal to know when the door was going to open so that he can,
come out. Yeah.
What's my line going to be? We would be honored if you'd eat with us. No, we'd be honored if you join us. Maybe I'll use the join us line later with my son. Join me. No, it's like such a betrayal.
It is. It's brutal.
And then Han just saying like, "I'm sorry too."
Oh,
and
that's brutal.
Yeah,
it's awful. It
and
kind of
like Han knows it's about to get just not good for him.
Oh yeah,
Right.
And this is one of those things too. It's that dinner sequence. I would hope maybe one day gets I honestly would love a certain point of view treatment for that. I'm not gonna lie, that would be grand.
Or like Robot Chicken, I think tackled it.
Yeah, they did. I think they did.
Yeah,
that would be amazing. Just a subtle, just to see how that went down. Was it silent?
I think it's in Vader's little princess book too that I've read to my daughter a couple of times.
Oh, okay.
It's funny. It's like the teenage boy coming to pick up the daughter.
Yeah.
I know. Let's get the Disney Plus movie, My Dinner with Andre, but it's My Dinner with Vader.
Jerry, you wrote in your notes, how did Vader get to Bespin before? Because,
Oh yeah, I know.
It's
I'm
weird.
gonna answer my own question right now. Yeah, I'm gonna answer my own question right now. It is kind of funny, but I'm just gonna say hyperspace.
Yeah, they did go hyperspace. That's a good point. I didn't think about that.
You know what the answer is, which is the answer in most Star Wars movies, is the how he got there. The reason why he got there so fast was plot.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
it would look cool for him to show up there. So anyway,
One thing I want to ask y'all, I want to kind of bring up, because they have this Cloud City sequence, where the fact that Vader kind of leads Luke to the city through Han's tortures, probably one of the more sophisticated plot points made in this whole entire movie. It's just like, what a clever way. And I don't know if that was the intention of Irvin or George or Lawrence, but like, damn, that is like super clever for like him to hear the call of Han or even Leia in their distress, and like the Force will guide them to each other. That's amazing.
Even Chewie, they're playing that like dog whistle.
And he's losing his mind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
it's
what's up?
I don't want to jump too far ahead.
No, please.
But Leia using the Force for the first time, to me, is the first time the Force awakened
yes.
in somebody.
Oh,
that's beautiful. Yes. Oh, we'll see that in a second.
We're gonna pull on that thread.
She's such a Mary Sue.
Oh,
dang it, Leia.
Yeah.
She can do everything. Right.
So just like our new little friend from the show we dare not name, that's like my favorite new argument about the Mary Sue thing. You know what I'm talking about?
I'm so unplugged.
You guys are making me nervous.
I'm so unplugged from all of any of it. Like if I see a tweet from someone that I just don't even remotely like, that I don't know how they got on timeline, muted, gone.
Yeah.
Gone.
Yeah, that's the best way to deal with it. For sure.
The one line that a lot of people overlook that I just wanted to bring up real quick is when after Han gets tortured, he comes in and she goes, "What do they want?" And he goes, "They didn't ask me any questions."
Yes.
So it's like,
that's amazing.
They sneak that in there. It's like, all right, so they're torturing him not for information. What is going on? And then we find out it's like for prep.
Yeah. Awful.
That's just brilliant writing. I'm sorry.
It's
crazy.
No, yeah, you're 100% right, man. It's
Larry effing Kasdan.
It's genius.
Larry,
Book
man.
and King. Book and King.
Larry.
There you go.
There it is. You're right there. You just sold me. No, like this one next little sequence is kind of silly, but I want to know if I heard it correctly. 3PO calls Chewie an overgrown mop or a muppet. What is the line?
It's mop head.
Mop head? Mop?
But it sounds like
Overgrown Muppet.
It sounds like Muppet, and I'm like, how self-referential if they really... I know it's not. There's no way. But like, it's just like amazing.
This was meta. This was meta before even Community existed.
Yeah.
Come on. Before Arrested Development, there was.
Weren't there bigger Muppets than Chewie though? Like, who's that big brown guy?
Sweetos.
Yeah.
Something, right?
Yeah.
I want to go to Hollywood too.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, this leads into probably one of the most Star Wars sequences of all time, which is another area that you can kind of dance around. But the carbon freezing sequence
Might be one of my favorite moments.
Yeah, definitely.
In the whole thing.
The whole feeling of this scene, to me, and I'm sure you can probably relate to this, has never been replicated in Star Wars again. They have never found the mastery of filmmaking, of color, of light, of emotion, of anything.
Yeah.
This scene is so individual. And I was, funny enough, I was showing two other teachers that were in my classroom after school bell had rang, and we're like talking about just Star Wars stuff. And he's like, "I love that scene." I'm like, it's and it didn't dawn on me, but this like leaves an impact on other people, not just us Star Wars nerds. Like, these are really like surface level fans, And what do y'all feel of it? This whole scene is so iconic. It's like Kubrick. I know you can't see it; the little picture's faded behind me, but it's like the 2001 theme. It's just so iconic. But anyway, what do y'all think of that?
Well, it made anytime someone looks at like that dark blue, that deep blue and orange, it's hard. Maybe not to the super casual fan or whatever, but even so, like, you see that color scheme and it almost immediately calls back this.
Yes.
Movie. it's I don't know who knew the couple colors could be iconic, but I think it pretty much is.
Yeah.
But, I don't,
You talk about a buildup. The
God.
whole sequence with Babu Frick and C-3PO has all those colors there, and immediately I'm like, carbon freeze chamber.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I agree, Jerry. I agree.
But John, like, why does this stand out significantly for almost anyone who's seen it? And I think, and the one thing I actually put in my notes is, thankfully it's never been replicated. Thankfully, never tried doing this again. Why does it stand out so much?
Aesthetically, for sure, the set is huge. You have layers. You have
Feels massive.
You have the mist. You have the mystique. You have the stormtroopers. You have the color schemes. You have the environment, and it's tense. You have Vader coming in with his big entrance. And then you look at the hero characters, and you have all these beats of every aspect of dramatic storytelling. You have the comedic relief with C-3PO saying, "Turn around, I can't see," blah blah blah, and then you have Chewie fighting stormtroopers off because his best friend's about to get taken. You have Leia finally confessing her love for Han Solo. You have Han knowing that he's about to go away. And he doesn't. That look on his face just before the cold captures him. That little like smirk he gives is one of the best non-vocalized facial expressions in the history of the saga.
Yes.
Next to Kylo Ren like swallowing his like throat when he's about to fire upon Leia. You know,
So good.
right.
So just I think all aspects of storytelling are all right in that little tense moment.
Yeah, man.
And how they made it happen and all the hours they put in, like it's shown on their faces. It's just very blue collar and how they made that scene come to life. And I know saying that to a big budget movie is kind of ridiculous, but
No, you got a good point.
yeah, it was very, very on the surface, but at the same time, all these characters like they're putting it all out there, and you feel that, and this is like the climax before the main event, which is Luke,
Which is
Vader.
crazy. It's so weird to think that
It's like a double main event.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is the opening band. Like you finally got to this part where almost everyone's in the same room, and then it's taken away from you because you lose Han in this moment. And one thing I want to bring up too, because it's you said it perfectly. It's this moment of like intensity that I've never realized, because every time I've seen this, I've seen it before. As a kid, I've seen it. I know what happens. But if you, I want to go rewatch it now. But like the musical,
I was just thinking that.
yeah, the musical part of it's incredible. But this is one of the few shots in Star Wars where there's the only wide shots when the Ugnaughts bring them to the middle of the thing. Everything else is super focused in on each character's face and how they're reacting and what is happening.
Exactly.
And it's masterful filmmaking, and like I said before, please never replicate it. It can't be done. No one's done it. No one can do it since. It's like you said, it's pretty DIY. It's just like it's not. There's no green screen. There's nothing in there to amp it up.
No.
It's music and visuals. It's and of course one of the best the best dialogue ever said in any movie ever, because it's true to each character. She finally breaks, "I love you." And in Han, in Harrison Ford, Han Solo, Star Wars fashion, I know. It's just boom. It hits so hard.
Depending on whose story you believe, like Kirshner said they did take after take after take, and everyone was hungry. They wanted to break for lunch.
Yeah.
And he's like, we'll just film and say whatever comes to mind. I don't know if that's actually how it happened. It sounds romantic to say it that way, but the only people who know are the people who are in the room, because I don't know if there's any behind the scenes about them actually shooting that. But you're right. The revised line is much better than him having said, "I love you too."
Yeah.
And of course, because they were able to call that back and Larry Kasdan flipped the script the other way and do it full circle in Return of the Jedi.
So good.
And it wouldn't shock me if in The Rise of Skywalker there's a situation where that happens, where someone says "I love you" and someone related to them says "I know."
Yeah, it's profound, and I don't know, Jay. What do you think of that line in particular? Just the transfer of dialogue is just so amazingly organic.
I don't know. It's just the coolest line ever.
It
like,
is.
Period. Really, all I got to say about it, because that's still that still is awesome. To this day, I love it. And then, I try all the time to do it to my wife, but she beats me to the punch.
Yeah.
It's all right. So, breaking the fourth wall here. This was my wedding cake topper.
Yes.
Nice.
I
Awesome,
have
man.
T-shirts of this. Kathleen got me his and her hand towels for the bathroom that say that.
Yes.
Oh yeah, it's just
Nice.
it's
huge.
so she yeah. It's
It's
just
a part of your life, man, and it's one
Yeah.
of those things. This is such a weird memory, and it can be. I hope, Jerry, you might have one similar to this. But I remember being a kid, and my dad used to put on "I Love the '80s," the VH1 show, and they had "I Love the '80s" movies, and I think Empire was like one of the first like iconic movies of the early 80s, 1980, and I'm pretty sure, I don't think a Spielberg movie even came out that year, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember. But anyway, they said like there was a huge part where every person that was on that VH1 show was like, how iconic is that? Like, it's such a profound line, how badass, and how it's just so like, it's not just it's Harrison Ford, but it's the Han Solo character in general. And I've never had a moment, I never had a romantic moment that ended with "I know," but it's just so like, imagine being in Leia's position and you're a dirty dog. Like, Han Solo is a dirty dog. Like, he just did that to me, and then boom, carbon freeze.
Would it have
John?
been funnier if when she unfreezes him, she like just smacks him in the face like, what is that I know nonsense?
Exactly.
So, like the first
You gonna
thing
leave
she
me
says to
hanging?
him. Yeah.
You gonna leave me hanging?
Yeah.
Come on, man. Anyway.
I guess the one thing is interesting is the only sense of knowing that Han could live is then delivered by 3PO, which it's so funny. And John, you brought this up on TRB because it made me realize it too. 3PO is this character that like everyone just craps on and gives him an awful time, and he's the only one that like in the end like kind of matters at the end of this saga. Like he's gonna say goodbye to his friends, so we think. It's like, it's a hard line to think about, but 3PO is like, oh, he was frozen in carbonite. There's a possibility that he could have lived or that he could have died. It's like he's Captain
You
F's
should be well
position.
protected, yeah.
Yeah, he's well protected. It's a great line,
Yeah.
It's 3PO cares in his own weird 3PO way, and people often overlook that.
Yeah. Sometimes it's the droid, because he's obviously a very intelligent, humanized droid, but sometimes the droid comes through and he's like, he looks at it in a very literal way.
Yeah.
Kind of like when Han says, thank you very much when he broke up the kiss. He's like, oh, you're quite welcome, sir.
Yeah.
He doesn't
Yeah.
get the sarcasm. So he's like,
Yeah.
oh, he's encased in carbonate. He should be quite well protected.
Yeah.
It's like, well, yeah, but, he's going to Jabba's palace right now on the wall.
Right.
It's huge, but I think that's where 3PO gets smacked around a little bit, and he's just being genuine. He really just stating a fact. Like, he really could have died, but he might not be dead. And as an audience member, you can almost go, thank God 3PO is there, because we don't know what's happening. Let's be honest, we have no idea as an audience member until that is stated. But Jerry,
And then Lando confirms it. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Jerry, any thoughts on that in particular?
Just, I don't know. Yeah, just what you guys were saying. You like C-3PO. It's a droid. He doesn't quite get it, but it is, like you were saying, Scotty, it's his own weird way of just going like, oh man, I hope he's okay. But he should be okay if he survived. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Everything else after this, I didn't write that much notes for this sequence for anyone listening right now, but it's gonna have its own moments, I'd imagine. But Luke's arrival is great. The Vader duel is great, and and the whole Rebels escaping is great too. But one thing I noticed, and I really broke it down. I saw a video that broke it down. But when Luke first arrives and Boba's leading the Han and Carbonite, Boba turns his head for like just a very brief second, and I rewatched it again today, and I'm like, oh my god, it's crazy. Like, I don't know if Luke's holster made a noise or whatever, but Boba Fett literally was like, boom, turns, and he keeps walking, and I don't know if it was a cue that he was told. I don't know. It's genius because Luke peers out just for a second, that cue happens, and then all the blasters start going off. So I don't know if that's the cool bounty hunter side of him. I don't know, but Luke. Then when we get to the Vader scene and the dialogue that happens there is amazing. It's kind of few and far between, but it is amazing. And like y'all kept bringing up,
Best
Luke,
line in the whole franchise.
John, what is it?
The Force is with you, young Skywalker, but you're not a Jedi yet.
It's brutal. It's brutal.
Like that's him saying like you're coming here thinking like I'm going to be afraid of you because you just trained with Yoda. I'm going to tell you right now that I know the Force is with you and you're not a Jedi, so you're about to get your ass whooped.
Yeah, it's so demoralizing.
The shadow, like you just see his silhouette.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have the 1997 ornament, Darth Vader, and that's the line on my tree. Yeah, it's just, oh my God. You talk about that carbon freeze being the best scene ever. That in the same setting where they kick this fight off.
There's something about that set. It's got its own feeling. It's got its own emotion. And I agree, man. Yeah. It's like you said, Luke then is the first to ignite his lightsaber, and that's him sealing the deal. Like I am about to whip your ass. Like you.
Yeah, this could have went a few ways, kid.
Yeah, and you don't know it's dad versus son, but seeing it now with retrospective eyes, it's like this is like if you and your dad and you and your dad were to get into a fist fight or a verbal argument, you know who's gonna win. It's always dad. It's always dad.
Right.
Especially when you're that naive and you're a dumb 17-year-old and you want to go to a party and your dad's like, no, you're not. You're not. Right. I'm not saying this based off of experience, but it's one of those things like he's going to lose, and it's just how it's going to be. But the Force sequences where he's throwing the objects at Adam and things are happening. The one thing I want to bring up to it in regards to what's happening, I remember Star Wars Newsnet reporting on this, and I want to hear what you might know about this, John. Maybe I'm reaching too far into you. Maybe it's things you might not say, but The Force Awakens has that hallway sequence, and there was a scene in The Force Awakens that had this happen through and through, where Rey saw the perspective of it and saw it happening. That was one of the craziest things. I still think no one brings it up, but it should be brought up, that they shot a shot-for-shot scene of this, and you see it vaguely in the Force back sequence. But, John, anything on that in particular? Any scoop?
Yeah, so... So I joined Star Wars Newsnet after that, but in my intelligence briefing to bring me up to speed in the base, they told me that this was a huge scoop that they got, and when they put it up, they got an immediate takedown notice, and they said, "We respect that. We're taking it down. We're not here to burn any bridges or cause any problems," and they appreciated that. And that eventually led to Lucasfilm, appreciating Star Wars Newsnet and developing some kind of symbiont coexistence.
Of course,
us being the little acorn over here.
Exactly.
So they definitely did. There were shots, and it wasn't obviously Mark Hamill, but there was a double who they made look like a battered Luke on Bespin. Yes. And they certainly did in that hallway show Vader and Luke fighting. And why it was cut or why it didn't work out, maybe they didn't want to do it with a double. I don't know what the reasoning behind it was, but it 100% certainly existed.
And it's crazy because... Not, and then later, of course, the photo was then posted. It must have been in 2018. Someone finally was able to post it and share it. But I had done this huge thread about the big three returning in The Rise of Skywalker, and there's this thing I wrote how JJ cut a lot of The Force Awakens out, and people don't realize it, but there's three main things. Zuvio obviously had a bigger role. He had a literal Black Series figure made. He did. There was a point to be made about that. He was a main character, or at least a Phasma equal at some point, and that was cut. And then you had the Snowspeeder chase sequence, which is a deleted scene, but there was Legos, there was action sets about that, and then of course you go to this sequence here, and I mean, I believe there was actually a Bespin beaten up Luke Black Series that was either released right before that movie or right after that movie, and it never came into fruition. I think this Force Awakens hallway scene, we might see it in The Rise of Skywalker. I have no idea. But what I will say is I hope at some point, maybe at a celebration in 2025, we'll see the footage of it. But I find it very interesting because I listened to an episode of Force Center where they talk about the call of the hero's lightsaber, and they dive into this sequence in particular, and when Luke loses,
fantastic
it's
episode
amazing.
Too, guys. Check that out. It's great.
When Luke has that saber and it is then lost, it's becomes a much bigger part of the story. And like John said, I think you've said it in TRB before. You don't want it to be the. It's cool that it ties the story together, but you shouldn't put that much meaning into it. I think that Force back section was important. it needed to happen for Rey to kind of have the Force awaken within her. But overall, it's not Excalibur.
The saber, I agree. Because you got to remember, this was Anakin's at least his third. Because when he busted it up in Attack of the Clones, he said, "Not again." So,
Exactly.
He's been through a few of these things, and in A New Hope, Obi-Wan called it a weapon, and it was just an elegant weapon. And they've tried the one thing about the new trilogy, they've tried to make it a bit of an Excalibur type of thing, and I haven't really subscribed to that. And that's fine. That's okay. It doesn't harm my viewing of it in any way. But I'd rather it be about the person in the Force than it be like this saber is so important type of thing. I know Kylo Ren wants it because he feels he's entitled to it because it was his grandfather's. But yes. I like it in my head. I like it's kind of stopping there.
And I agree with that, Jerry. Any perspective on the lightsaber itself being lost and then found again? I don't know what you think of it. I never asked you.
Something I honestly never thought we'd see. It was just kind of. It was an interesting choice in all the material. We're like, wait, that's Luke's old. That's Anakin's lightsaber. What? I don't know. Like, I thought that was gone.
Yeah.
But not really. I don't have anything really groundbreaking on that either. But I don't know. I'm just sitting here learning from you guys, I guess. But no. I don't know. I just have to say this. This is my favorite lightsaber duel.
It is. Oh my God.
Like this, it's so just visceral, and again, the prequels are cool and all that, but like I really dig this, like even more than the duel in Return of the Jedi. I don't know. There's just something that's very like brutal about this one.
Yeah.
So probably gets his butt kicked.
It's Vader toying with him pretty much the whole time.
It is.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not a duel. It's like Vader hack and slash.
Luke gets one shot on Vader's shoulder, and he turns into, I'm not fighting my son anymore, and the rage takes over, and he chops his hand off.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Because he goes, and he's like, he just loses his mind. Yeah.
It
almost parallels, again, to go back to the Force Awakens, and we can go right back in here, but just like Kylo toying with Finn.
Yeah.
Like he gets a shot in on him, he's like, "All right, this is done."
Yep.
And he just slices his spine in half.
Yes, right.
Well, it's huge.
It's just this is a trope in Star Wars. Now. It's cool.
Yeah.
It's weird. I think for Vader it has more meaning than for it is for Luke. Luke's getting his ass whipped. It's obvious.
Yeah.
But I think for Vader it's like, no, hopefully this will lead you, just like your mother before you who wouldn't follow, but this will lead you to a darker path because you want to be like me. You want to be powerful like me. And this is where George Lucas is just a genius storyteller, because I feel that this story, and I mentioned it before in the Revenge of the Sith episode, this is where the storytelling becomes ancient. It's father versus son. I want you to do this. You won't do this, And Luke's refusal is the most Jedi thing he could do. He's not going, and it's the most Obi-Wan, the most Yoda thing that he could do. He just abandons it. He knows that he's been defeated, and the "No, I am your father" moment happens, and it's just I don't know. He does say to Vader, "You do not realize your importance," and I wonder what that means in terms of what could happen later, or what Vader thinks will happen later. He doesn't know his importance, and
I think that's Vader trying to marginalize Luke's value everywhere else other than right there with him. So you are important to me. And that is repeated once again by Ben Solo to Rey.
Yeah.
You're nothing. You're garbage, but not to me.
Yeah.
So Luke's saying, you do not realize your importance. And Luke's been always looking to the future, looking to the horizon, wondering what his value was. And there's his father. He's just meeting for the first time saying, "You are important. Join me." That temptation must be so raw.
Could you imagine?
And Vader knows that. So Vader's pulling at that. And Luke didn't take the bait.
No, that's a beautiful thing you mentioned, because there's a lot of moments that apparently, like, look at Ben Solo and Han, Ben and Han. I mean, that same moment kind of happens later. It's like, "No, you don't want to do this. You're not this." And he's like, "Let me help you." Han is now the opposite of what Vader's doing to Luke in this situation in regards to Ben. Where Ben,
interesting.
Yeah, it's a weird parallel. It's not one of those things that is that has been referenced, but it's like, Han and Ben, it's father and son yet again on a same exact kind of situation, but it ends with death. It doesn't end with
and
Vader.
flipped, because you have the Darksider saying, "Will you help me?"
Yes.
And Han saying, "Yes, I'll do anything," and then he impales him.
It's amazing, and Empire Strikes Back has just done it perfect. But yeah, the "No, I am your father" scene. There's very few scenes that like can be so quoted, but still have so much emotional weight. Like, like everyone jokes about Sarah Connor and all the Terminator references or anything Harry Potter, you're a wizard, Harry. That's not emotional to me. This still, if you're watching it in the context of the movie, it's like, damn, like that's a hard thing to realize. And I never was really emotionally moved by it until I watched it at Celebration in 2017 with a crowd, and like everyone like screamed as loud as they could because of its iconicism, but also what that means for Luke as a character. Because everything Luke knows, especially from what Obi-Wan has told him, has been completely flipped on its head. You got to think. I would have joined the dark side if I had just met my father, who I thought was dead. Everything else,
that's the thing,
and he doesn't, and that is just reflective of Luke as a character later in TLJ and Return of the Jedi. It's amazing. It is amazing.
Yeah. He would almost rather die than do, which is kind of interesting. We'll get into that again, but I don't know how awesome is Mark Hamill's acting in this. I mean, I know you can probably you might be able to maybe make fun of it a little bit. I don't know. I think it's just heartbreaking, his reaction.
Yeah, it's awful.
He has a big view of his dad. Obi-Wan was telling him, he wasn't a navigator on a spice freighter. He was fought in the Clone Wars. He was a friggin' Jedi. And to think Luke for 3 years has thought his dad is this awesome, fantastic guy, which he was, but to find out that this monster is your father, just that whole, just the agony in that. No.
Well, yeah, that whole time he's fighting him right there. He thinks he's fighting the guy who killed his father.
Exactly.
Yes, and it's just I don't know.
And the audience does too. Let's not forget.
Yeah, absolutely. Just that, I don't know, just the emotion in his face has just always struck me. That whole, just it's, I guess you could call it the equivalent of an ugly cry.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, we all look like that when we get distressing news, guys. Come on. I thought he really nailed that. That's
without a doubt. Yeah,
it's amazing. And one thing is, I mean, it's kind of hard to top that moment. Every other thing that happens after this, I just put it as the final scenes because there's really no sequences. It's like just a chase from Cloud City, and that's pretty much it. And the one thing that really isn't brought up that much, Leia, Jerry wrote this. Jerry, actually, you mentioned this because it never clicked until you wrote it.
I never noticed it before. Yeah, sorry. Just the fact that Leia is in Han's seat piloting the Falcon with Chewie. Mm-hmm. Got her hands on the yoke and everything. I was like, wow, I don't know. I can't believe I never really put that together.
Yeah, but she's
be that my straight white male brain or whatever. I don't know.
She's still. I don't know that she's piloting it because she tells Chewie to turn around.
Yeah,
that's true. That's true. It struck me weird or not weird. It just struck me for this time for some reason that I'm like, oh wow, she's sitting in the pilot's seat. Right. You know what I mean? The captain's seat. So
because I don't know that we know that Leia can pilot. I don't know if we've seen her pilot anything before.
Right.
But
I don't think we have.
But I think it's better to have learned how to use the Force than pilot a freighter. So
exactly.
Right.
She's like Luke. And I'm like, oh, yes. Why does she know that? It's crazy.
Amazing. That is.
Hey man, the Force Awakening.
Yeah,
that was beautiful.
That's such a good pull, John. For real, man.
The first awesome. Force Awakening. Right.
It's true, but it had to have happened because she and maybe I don't know if y'all had experiences like this with your loved ones or with brothers or sisters or parents or aunts or uncles. But sometimes when something bad just happened and you don't know what it is, and you get news later that someone fell or whatever, or your grandparent. Sure. You got the diagnosis of cancer, whatever the situation is. But in your chest, you're like, something doesn't feel right. And it's cool that you can personify this through storytelling using the Force. And that is kind of odd, John. I never thought about that's the Force, boom. And we see this again in TLJ. She can then manipulate the Force, and of course, in the Force Awakens, she feels it, but at much stronger. I mean, her loved one, the father of her child has been taken away, and she falls to her knees. It's just the power of the Force is incredible, and maybe that's when it started with her. That's beautiful. That's awesome.
Yeah, and then Luke and Leia have that moment when he's on the rock and she's in the coma, and he says Leia and she says Luke again.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, damn it.
That's how he connects back to the. A lot of people are like, Luke, he doesn't connect to the Force and he can use the Force. He goes up to the rock to connect with Leia. That's his link to.
Yeah, that
connection with her.
That Knives Out guy can write a script. I don't know.
Yeah.
Can't wait for something about that. I don't know. Him and that Larry Kasdan should do something someday.
Yeah. The next thing I think is pretty cool is our very first mention of a Force Skype. Like him and Vader are talking back and forth, and
Oh yeah. I never really thought about it like that. That's true.
It is. It's it's Luke, and he's like, Dad, or what is his father or something?
Father.
And
he says Daddy.
The punch to the gut to me, and it
Daddy-o.
didn't dawn on me until I was just watching it. Was the Ben? Why didn't you tell me? Like imagine.
Yeah.
Oh, that is such a good delivery there.
And Kenobi had logged out of Skype at that point.
Yeah, he was logged out.
It's like, oh, this is awkward. I didn't want you to find out.
I'm not updating my app. I am not engaging.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny when he goes. Sorry, jump to Return of the Jedi. Whenever he talks, when Yoda's like, oh, told you, did he?
Yeah.
Right.
Where like Sam Witwer, I think on Collider Jedi Council one time did like oh, told you, did he? F that guy.
Right. Yeah.
Oh man, this is so funny. But yeah.
It's
that together, Scott. That's a good pull.
Ben, why didn't you tell me? It hurts because imagine that's your life being flipped.
Painful.
Flipped. You just found out your dad was your enemy, and your enemy was your dad, and the guy that was guiding you who said, "Oh no, your dad died years ago. Vader killed him." Well, he's not lying technically from a certain point of view. So that is like the Obi-Wan being Obi-Wan. I mean, what did Satine say, Jerry?
She is introducing him. She's like, this is the collection of half-truths, or have you met the collection of half-truths and hyperbole that is Obi-Wan Kenobi?
It's what it is.
Great description.
But though we get, Jerry, you brought up Nash Windrider. Bring that up. Yeah, explain that.
Well, you have them trying to escape. They're trying to go to the whole movie. We've been trying to go to hyperspace. We can't go into hyperspace. What's going on? And it's supposed to have been fixed. And I love that you find out, too, that Lando and Han, deep down, this is why they're friends. They're the same person, man. He's like, he pretty much quotes Han, like, it's not my fault.
Right.
It's not my fault,
Yeah.
Like, I think Han says at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, he does.
But, it's like then you got Vader saying, did your men deactivate the hyperdrive on the Millennium Falcon, all that. And we find out in the canon novel Lost Stars, which some consider one of the greatest ones that have come out in new canon, that good old Nash Windrider and Ciena Ree deactivate the hyperdrive. They're the ones who actually do it. It's a little Forrest Gumpy.
But it's not bad. I like that.
Yeah, but that's about it.
But John,
there's nothing. Just go read Lost Stars.
Who saves the frickin' day, John? Who is the one
you
that...
know it. Yeah. Where is he? He's here right now. His name is R2D2. Yeah.
Frickin' D2.
He's got the universal remote that plugs into everything and works.
It almost looks like the tool that he tries to stick into the power socket earlier or something.
Yeah.
Like back,
and then he's like drunk walking around. Yeah. No, he saves the day. He takes a break from fixing his buddy, and he's like, wait a minute. He's like, I remember picking this information up from the City Central computer. And he's like, what? I know what happened here. And he moves with his little hand, moves the thing, and you see the white light turn on, and bang, there they go. And he slides into the pit, right? Doesn't that? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, which Chewbacca was just in, I thought. I always wondered, did he just fall onto Chewbacca?
Well, it's like when BB-8 fell onto Finn, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But
when you got to think, too, why didn't anyone else think to just, plug it back in or something?
Exactly.
Right. It was in R2's contract,
R2?
Yeah, using his his lightning run, sure.
We brought it up when Alex on the show, but R2's like the original hacker. Like he like gets information, he like steals all the data from the computer drives, and he's like, I'm gonna use this later maybe, and then he does, and he activates the hyperdrive and just launches. It's just
I'm gonna keep this.
yeah, I'm like this is good stuff. He's like
R2D2 is before there were all the CSIs and NCISs. He was the guy behind the computer. To quote, I guess Ned in Spider-Man.
Right.
I'm your guy behind the computer.
Yes. Yep.
And to end this whole discussion, I think this movie in particular, there's not much dialogue. There's not much said. Kind of like all the original trilogy's endings, it's like a whole sequence within itself. You know, him getting the hand fixed, and that has giant implications later that I want to discuss on a different episode. But him receiving the robotic hand's really big, and you know, they're looking out off the medical frigate, looking out into the outer rim. I think that's the only shot we see that's like so far out of the galaxy that you can see the outer rim territories and everything around them. You know, I wonder if they're close to the unknown regions. I just find that very interesting. The greatest.
I don't know. I don't know what the canon reason for that is, but it's either that or or something. Yeah.
I think this is one of the greatest endings to a Star Wars movie, and I might have said that.
So good.
Might have said that for Revenge of the Sith. I don't remember, but I really do think, like, in terms of music,
one of the best openings in Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, well, it's in terms of musicality and what John Williams does with it, with the Han and Leia theme. It literally, I think they play the same sequence of notes and riff like 4 times before it like really builds up.
Yeah.
And then it just climaxes into the theme, and you're like. It's like, I guess, how Infinity War, and you're like, what? Like, it's over. Like, I ended it.
Right.
Could you imagine being, I don't know how old you are, John, but imagine being a 15-year-old during 1980 and just being like, I have to wait? Like, this is so awful. I don't know. What do y'all think of the
talking about Chewbacca and Lando are running away. Lando's wearing Han's clothes. Wait, you can't leave me now.
Right. Well, it was like when I was 16 watching The Phantom Menace and Boss Nass holds that globe. I'm like, what happens next? I need to know. Like,
yeah,
so
exactly.
No, I'm kidding.
Right.
No, for sure. It's a huge deal, and I was confused when they do I guess there's another gap between 5 and 6. Even though Luke says we'll meet at the rendezvous point on Tatooine, you think they're about to pick up Return of the Jedi 15 minutes later, but there's a gap there, and I guess they've fussed around with it, but.
It's like a few months or a year, somewhere in there.
Yeah, a year or something. Yeah, I don't know.
It's close. I don't think it's over a year because that's just
and
that almost makes me like squirm. Like they left him in there for a year.
I know, right? Yeah,
literally nice. Anyway,
but any thoughts on this ending in particular from either of y'all? Like in terms of how it ends and in terms of just the music part of it. I think it's probably one of the best ending scores of all time.
I'll just say, like a middle act, there's so many questions and uncertainty and despair, and you don't feel comfortable. You don't walk out of the movie, feeling good. Same kind of deal with like any middle act.
Yeah, right, definitely.
Except Attack of the Clones though was kind of happy with the wedding, but you had the looming specter of the Empire being formed.
Yeah,
but
so much more.
Yeah, but this one is just kind of like, all right, well, what is going to happen to Han Solo? Like, that's I think where you think, because Luke's okay, Leia's there with him, everyone else is kind of there, but Han's gone, so you kind of just wonder what his fate is at that point. Especially if you really dug into production at that time. Harrison Ford was the only actor not to have signed for 3 movies at the time. He only did the 2, so he could have very well have been like, see ya, pals. I'm gonna go do archaeology stuff. Yeah,
totally. One thing we always end this discussion with, and I thought this was an amazing talk, y'all. This was fantastic. Well, I always ask, how did Palpatine influence the story? And he only has one main scene. Not that big of a deal. It's just an introduction to him. I don't think he influences the story near as much as Vader does, or near as Yoda kind of influences the story more than anything. But did y'all have any questions or like things, observations that you made when you watched this movie? I have one in particular I'd like to state, but I want y'all to go first if you can.
I feel like I've watched it so many times that it doesn't necessarily raise questions as it does make me want to wonder how we can call back to it when we add to canon.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I just still... What the heck was Lando doing wearing Han's clothes? I mean, come on, man. That's
true.
That's
and
really
he buttons it all up.
Really,
you're not,
all the way up to the top.
You're more of a
It's got,
nerd
like,
than we
collar.
thought, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Sheesh, Lando. I'm sure he was like, I need to change your clothes. Han won't mind. Like the same size. Honestly, it was probably like they didn't know if Harrison was coming back, so it's kind of their way of going, oh, here's your new Han.
Yeah.
Good thing for poor
Smart.
Lando that didn't happen. Like he considered new. Oh, that's just new Han. So, but, no, not really.
Well,
I mean, this is, like you said, John. It's like you've seen it so many times. It just gets better.
One parallel I would like to make, and maybe I'm forcing it, but TLJ, The Last Jedi, tells us this exact story, but in opposite terms. Where you start off with a white planet in this movie, you end on a white planet with that movie. And in terms of like battle and scope, the resistance loses in TLJ, the rebellions lose, but they escape with more people. Whereas TLJ, they're just on the Falcon. It's like the storytelling is very similar, but it's flipped in its own regard. And you've got the same, I want you to join me, but no, you don't do this to me feeling of it. They're very similar. They're both very similar, leads into the next movie kind of feeling. I just love how well they are both constructed in regards to the Force. And if I can end this conversation with anything, I think it's just we are in for a treat for The Rise of Skywalker and what they could pull from Empire, or what they can pull from Revenge of the Sith. Because there's a lot of movies that do have a little bit of an open-ended discussion or plot line that is definitely not touched upon ever again. And I don't know if this one has that big of one, but the answering of Leia and that comment Yoda makes is pretty huge. But anyway, guys, this was amazing. Thank you so much, John. I really dug this.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
I know it's a pretty one of our longest, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sure our Revenge of the Sith one with Eric was just a little bit longer, but
it's pretty long.
This was awesome.
Three guys really like a movie talking together. It's
talk about bookends. This is definitely the second longest podcast episode I've ever been on, and the first was my first ever. So
wow.
Oh, nice.
That's awesome.
But this was fun though. I could talk about Empire for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. So I know we even had to skip over stuff that we probably could have kept going on, but I had a blast, guys. So I really appreciate it.
Well, John,
thank you so much for coming on, John. And hey, now we have like proof in we have a recording proving that you can talk for hours about it.
Right, yeah.
All of us. It's all of us, man. But no, yeah, thank you. And again, guys, check out well, you know what, John, tell the good people hold on, real quick. You know what? No, I don't know what I'm doing. It's really here. I was trying to jump notes here, guys. Okay, pardon me. John, you know what? Go ahead and plug where we can find you, and what the good stuff you guys are doing over there, and
the base.
Yeah. I'll get there eventually.
The base is always open. You can find me obviously over at StarWarsNewsNet.com. Definitely hit that up every day for your latest Star Wars news, reviews, editorials, information, and more. We have a great book and comic review team over there. Resistance Broadcast. You can find us on Twitter at RBATSWNN. Me, James, and Lacey 2 times a week, and then the Mando fan shows every Friday, which you can find on the Star Wars Newsnet YouTube channel or Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Podbean, Google Play, everywhere you can get a podcast, I guess. And then what else am I looking at here? Check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/resistancebroadcast. You can start at $2 a month to join us over there. A lot of content there. And you can find me on Twitter at Johnny Hoey, trying to do deep cut references to weird movies and occasionally some baseball trash talk and of course Star Wars.
Always.
Right.
If you haven't yet listened to the Resistance broadcast, I would highly suggest it. It's the podcast that got me into
thanks.
podcasting for Star Wars. And I know Jerry and I, we met because of the meetups that happen at Celebration. And John,
so cool.
Yes.
It's
100%.
John, I might say this too much to you, but I appreciate everything that you do. And Resistance is one of the finest.
Man.
There's
You guys have a class operation going on over there
Yes.
for sure.
I remember the old
thanks.
days
Thanks, guys.
of the Star Wars wars with Pat and Bill, and I remember that. Like I love that. But we've now grown, and we've seen you grown from being the almost, it was zany at one point, to being this really sophisticated, and you got great guests on, and it's just
Thanks, man.
the Patreon page is great. If y'all haven't joined yet, I'm sure half the people that listen to us listen to y'all, and the Patreon page is just fire right now, and it's awesome.
If you haven't done it, just take that leap, man. Come on, you two proud patrons here.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, you guys
Do it
are
for
awesome,
real.
man.
And now that we've buttered you up, John. No. Again, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh,
John.
guys, thank you.
Talking 3 hours.
Yeah, it was a blast. I really appreciate it, guys. And let's do it again sometime.
Of course.
Heck yeah, man.
All right.
That is the plan. But anyway, y'all, thank you so much for joining us in this long episode about Empire Strikes Back, and longer than the movie itself. The movie's only 2 hours and like 10 minutes. But if we knew this would happen. Thank you for joining us.
Bonus content, baby.
I'm Scotty Jarrow. You can find me on Twitter at @TheScottJarrow. We've got T-shirts on TeePublic. You can always check out our reaction videos at the Bombadcast's YouTube channel. For any of my students listening, yes, get yourself a shirt. The money doesn't go to me. Wink, wink. I've had my students inquire about getting shirts. It's at tpublic.com. And go to bed. Type in the Bombadcast. You'll find us. You can always get a Make Solo 2 shirt happen from the Resistance broadcast as well, which is a hot selling item, and families wear them at families wear them at Galaxy's Edge, and those
Families
pictures.
buy them and hawk them at Star Wars celebrations. And
A
it's
T-shirt is
insane.
popular when people are ripping it off and selling it on Amazon with a different tweak design. So.
For real.
So stupid.
Yes.
I hate those people. People are morons too.
But thank you for listening if you are listening.
Yes, if you are listening, seriously. But yeah, no, Jerry, I guess do your thing, and we can finally call it a night.
All right. Yeah. Well, guys, check us out next week. We're going to be talking about Revenge of the. It is late. Return of the Jedi. Once titled Revenge of the Jedi, but we will be talking about that lovely film full of furry little creatures with Mr. Brad Whipple of the Friends of the Force podcast. So go check him out and get ready for next week, guys. We are so stinking close to the Rise of Skywalker. The
Freaking less than a month.
keeps moving, guys. It keeps moving. We're like, so next I was looking, next Sunday is December. So it's insanely close. So let that sink in, everybody. So here we go. All right. But you know what, guys? You can, if you enjoy my ramblings and talking about why the heck was Lando wearing his vest, and the shirt was it was the same exact color as all of Han's shirt. Why does Han have so many of the same shirt? Anyway, you can find stuff like that on there. But also, find me on the Bombadcast. You can follow us at Bombadcast. Hang out with us and your stepmom on Facebook at the Bombad family, a Bombadcast official group. And other than that, guys, thank you for hanging out with us for this audiobook-sized Bombadcast. And until next time, stay Bombad.